Fingers crossed, assuming this may be a 10 to 15 minute witness, does the state have other witnesses on deck they would like to go forward with as well?
Yes, we've called to gather everyone we could so we can go forward with another witness, I believe, after this one.
All right, appreciate it.
Morning. Papa, I prefer Poppy. If we're gonna do dad names, I prefer Poppy. Sorry about that. I'll talk to you guys so you don't have to just hear dead air that whole time. Good morning. How's everybody? Looks like they're saying in the chat that Fonnie Willis is not going to testify this morning. She was also not going to testify yesterday, so we'll see what happens. Oh, Papa Henry, is that what you're saying? Okay. Now swearing in the first witness.
Roy Eugene Barnes, Royeugene, Barnes, Barnes.
Good morning, Mr. Barnes. Can you tell the court a little bit about your background as it relates to your service in public service?
I was first elected to the state senate in 1974 from Cobb County, and I served 16 years there. And then in 1990, I ran for governor and was defeated. And 2 years later, I went back to the House of Representatives. I was elected to the House of Representatives and served 6 years until I was elected governor in 1998, and I served in that position until January of 2000. Representatives served 6 years until I was elected governor in 1998, and I served in that position until January of 2003.
And after serving in the position of governor, can you tell the court a little bit about what you transitioned into after your public service?
I did exactly what I was doing before I was elected. I went back to practicing law in Marietta, Georgia, with my daughter, who's now judge of the state court, and my son-in-law. And now we have, I think, 6 or 7 lawyers. Charlie Bailey back there was one of them at one time.
Okay. And Governor Barnes, would you consider yourself to be a trial lawyer?
Yes. We don't write contracts or we don't write wills. All we do is try cases.
And I want to direct your attention back to 2021, where you approached by the district attorney of Fulton County, Fonnie Willis, about being a special prosecutor.
I was. I don't recall the exact date, but I know it was sometime in 2021. And she asked me to come down, and I met with her and Nathan Wade, and there were several other in the meeting. She asked me, said they were beginning this investigation, and she asked me if I'd be interested in being special prosecutor, to which I replied that I had mouths to feed at a law office, and that I would not do that. And also, I just had a bad, well, I won't say bad because it happens from time to time, but I just had the FBI to report a fella, militia trainer, to me that said they were concerned that he was making threats against me. And because I thought it was because of the flag, but I asked him and he said, no, it was because I was too close to the Jews, quote unquote. And I told D.A. Willis I'd lived with bodyguards for 4 years, and I didn't like it. And I wasn't going to live with bodyguards for the rest of my life.
So ultimately, you turned down?
Yes. Yeah, I told her. I said, I'm not interested.
Nothing further from the state.
Ms. Merchant.
Morning, Governor Barnes. How are
Morning.
you?
Just fine. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
You said it was sometime in 2021. Do you remember?
I think
if
it
early?
was. I don't remember the dates. They all go. I could look it up on my calendar at the office, but I don't have that.
Well, I want to ask you about some statements that Ms. Willis made March 28th, 2021. She was talking about assembling a team for this case. Are you familiar with her work assembling a team for this case?
Well, I assume that's what she was talking to me about. But besides that, I don't know.
And I know you had said you had a meeting with some folks, and Mr. Wade was at that meeting?
Correct.
Okay. So he was with the district attorney interviewing you about taking this case?
Well, of course, I know Nathan very well, as you do.
Yes.
And I exchanged pleasantries with him, but the conversation was with Ms. Willis.
Okay, with Ms. Willis. Were you aware at the time that her team consisted of Brian Watkins, Megan Vargas, Sonia Allen, Shannon Trotty, Sal Chan, and John Floyd? She had reported that was her team on this case.
I know John Floyd was involved, and she probably told me the others, but listen, I barely remember what case I tried last year, much less every word that was said in the conversation.
I understand, fair enough. But she said she was looking to hire more lawyers and investigators to work on this case?
She told me, it was to me, she said, would you be interested in being special prosecutor in this case? And I gave the reply that I've already known. I mean, about hiring other lawyers or whatever, I don't know. All I can testify to is what she told me.
Did she tell you at all why she wanted to hire special counsel and not use someone who is an ABA, not have an actual employee?
No, she did not. I mean, we did not discuss that, and but I would assume it was because in a case as big as this that you'd have to have a physician help. I know John Floyd has been in some cases over the years out in Cobb County, for example, and others.
Would you agree that an employee of her office, someone who was paid a state salary or a county salary as an ADA, could handle a case like this?
I couldn't tell you that unless I knew the person, knew their experience, and really had been with them in a courtroom.
All right.
Has an opinion on that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Say no.
Hello, Mr. Say-Thou.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
I hope you're well.
I'm doing fine, just getting older, but that beats all time.
That's true, but that applies to all of us, I believe.
Yes.
I think you indicated that if you had your calendar, you'd be able to pinpoint a date for
I
us.
would.
Is there a way for you, for example, at a break before you actually leave to contact your folks to see if you can get a date?
I guess I could. I don't know how far back we archived those, but I assume I could.
Would you be willing to give that a shot for us?
I mean, I'll do whatever the court instructs.
So if I ask the court and the court says go ahead and you could do it, that's all right?
I'll do whatever the court instructs.
I hear you.
And you should too.
I try to live by those words. I'm not always successful, but I try. If I pinpoint a date, for example, I think the record is clear that Mr. Wade was hired for the position on November 1 of 2021. Does that help you at all?
No, it does not.
Okay. Then let's go to the meeting. It sounds like it was just one meeting.
Yes.
And could you tell us where that meeting took place, if you
It was
remember?
in the conference room adjacent to the district attorney's office.
So was it in this, or the adjoining building?
It was in the Lewis Slate building.
And District Attorney Willis was there, obviously, right?
Yes. Yes.
And Mr. Wade was there?
The best I recall, now I could be mistaken about that, it's like anything that far away, but that's my recollection.
Do you have a recollection of anyone else being present?
Yeah, there were some other folks, but I don't remember.
Do you remember, were you introduced to Mr. Wade by anything other than you already knew him? Was he given a title
I
or
would've
anything?
known.
So at least as you're there, heard you correctly, Ms. Willis did all the talking, Mr. Wade did not.
I mean, we exchanged pleasantries, but as far as the basis of the conversation, the reason I was there, Ms. Willis did the talk.
And would you be able to give us an estimate of how long this meeting lasted? Just rough.
Probably an hour.
And during the meeting, you made it clear, but it was the thanks for the offer, but no thank you.
Oh, yes, I did.
Who is now on the witness stand, taking questions in the Fani Willis disqualification hearing at the Fulton County Courthouse. The former governor is there because apparently he was asked by Fani Willis, the DA, to be the lead prosecutor. He declined. That's a job that eventually went to Nathan Wade and leads us to where we are today. So we're going to continue streaming this coverage of this hearing live in its entirety on ANF Plus. You can find ANF Plus streaming through Roku TV, Apple TV Plus, and YouTube, or anywhere else you stream. Again, this hearing is airing live in its entirety right now on our various streaming platforms, and we'll have a complete wrap-up of the hearing coming up on the Atlanta News First News at noon. We'll see you then.
Syria one time for beheading
Sorry about that.
A client of mine, recovered $82 million. I guess that's the best high profile, but that was in D.C. I tried that up in D.C.
And what would be considered complex cases, you've handled those as well, correct?
Yes. I mean, we regularly do mass torts, class actions, business torts, breach of contract, and most of those are complex, requiring many experts. We also do malpractice. I did malpractice defense for about 25 years, but since I've returned from the governor's office, I try not to represent an insurance company anymore, and I just tried a malpractice case before Judge Edlin in November. And those are complex cases because of the type of, medical knowledge and that you have to have, and also because of the many experts that you have.
Thank you. Did Ms. Willis, and this is the last question, did Ms. Willis tell you why she had sought you, why you had been her choice?
No, I hadn't, but, I get consulted fairly often on major cases.
Would you believe, based on circumstances in which you were given the offer, that it had to do with the fact that you had handled complex and high-profile cases in the past?
It could have been. I know her very well. I tried a case against her. She worked for the JQC, and I represented Judge Robert Crawford, Matt Crawford, and she prosecuted him, and I defended him. She beat me at the trial. I turned it around at the Supreme Court.
So you had some experience with
her. I had plenty of experience with him. She's a very qualified young. Well, everybody's young to me, but she's a very qualified young woman.
After that one occasion, mm-hmm. Did you have any other contact with her in reference to the position itself or who she might be considering?
I had some conversations with her or Jeff DeSantis or some of those, but not really an in-depth, about who she should hire or anything like that.
Did the name Nathan Wade come up in those conversations with her?
Yeah.
No, right?
Yeah. Nathan was there, I thought. Now, I could be mistaken, but I thought Nathan was there when I...
For the conference?
Think Nathan was... I'm not positive Nathan was there when I met with him.
Right, and my question was probably poorly worded, but what I was asking is after the conference and whatever consulting you might have done,
yes,
did Ms. Willis or Mr. DeSantis bring up the name Nathan Wade as a special prosecutor?
I don't think so. I don't recall one. I mean, Nathan is a good organizer. Nathan can organize stuff. I've watched him over the years. So I wasn't surprised that he was acting as a special prosecutor.
And Mr. DeSantis, for the record, who was that? Jeff DeSantis?
Jeff DeSantis.
Do you know who he is?
Oh, yes.
Could you tell us who he is for the record?
Jeff works in the DA's office. I knew him when he worked for Thurber Baker.
Do you know what his role in the DA's office is?
I have no earthly idea.
Is he in media? Does that sound familiar?
He has done media in the past. Jeff has generally been, I like Jeff, and I'm very close to him, but he's generally been on the other side of my campaigns.
All right, so we're talking, the best of your recollection, conference, we don't have the date, I'm asking if you could possibly get it, but the conference you have, Mr. Wade could have been there.
Yes, I'm almost sure he was there.
And Ms. Willis, obviously, and Mr. DeSantis was there.
I think Mr. DeSantis was too.
And as far as whether there was anyone else there, you don't have a present recollection?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Next time I'll take a picture so I'll have an exact.
Next time, hopefully, you won't have to be here.
Well, hopefully not.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Stockton.
No questions, Judge.
Thank you.
Mr. Durham.
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. McDougal.
No questions from the governor, no?
Mr. Rice.
No questions, Judge.
Mr. Gillen.
I've been waiting for this for
I couldn't give up the chance getting up here, Governor. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Craig.
We've done some work in the past together, haven't we?
I consider you to be one of my best friends and a crackerjack lawyer.
Well,
A
I will say to
crackerjack
you,
lawyer.
on the record, that I can understand why they came to see you because you're the finest lawyer that I've ever worked with.
Oh,
I
my
need to put
circle
you in the
jerk.
next day.
Yeah, there you go. We'll get that. But I got one or two more questions.
Okay.
You and I working together when it's appropriate. We've had no qualms about filing motions to disqualify the DA, have we?
No.
Matter of fact, you and I successfully disqualified the DA out in Cobb County in the Brown case, didn't we?
We did.
So whatever needs to be done should be done.
Represent your client.
You got that. Thank you so much.
Mr. Cachuro, are you still with us by Zoom?
I am, Your Honor.
All right, any questions?
Rug in the house.
No, sir.
All right, and Mr. Cromwell for Ms. Latham?
No questions, Governor.
All right, any redirect, Mr. Abadi?
I got it.
Can this witness be excused?
Yeah, that was it. I just wanted to tell you that you're my best friend. You're my best friend too. I love you.
The question is, you
No
want the
further
exact date
questions.
that the meeting occurred?
My best. Good morning.
And I'm wondering if we can, if it's really material, the exact date rather than just its proximity to the November 1st hiring. Is that fair? If he knows whether it was far earlier in the year versus maybe closer, would that obviate the need for the exact date?
If you can't get the exact date, of course, we'll take the best we can get.
Okay, let's start there.
All right.
I think, well, you may take care of it for us just if we hold in place here.
Kiss,
I'm not
kiss,
sure.
kiss, kiss, kiss.
Well, let me try this first, Governor Barnes, before you do a deep dive in the email there. Do you recall what time of year it was when this meeting occurred?
I'm afraid not.
Okay.
I mean, you know how this is. The cases and the days move together. I had a fellow a few years ago that said I represented him in 1978, and I told him I'd take his word for it.
I got to ask, you wouldn't do that if it was a question of him saying he just paid you.
No, I would not. I will tell you, I believe lawyers should be well paid, Mr. Sagan.
All right, so sir, is that something
I'll have to look. It didn't come up right.
Okay. All right, we'll ask this witness to step down subject to
What did the
recall.
shaft say today?
And that might be something the state can present with stipulation as well.
I appreciate the night off.
All right, thank you, sir.
Well, now we know you're not the chef because you didn't have the night off, my friend. It got a little lonely in Jayville.
Do we have an update on Mr. Bradley?
Lawyer. The lawyer should be here. He's probably outside last night.
Sorry,
The
Rod.
last estimation I heard was about 11:30.
Okay. If that's still the case, then Ms. Cross, did you have another witness available?
But having brought over, it's Mr. John Floyd, not the special prosecutor John Floyd. John Floyd, Mr. Attorney Willis's father.
Okay. And is he heading this way?
Yes.
All right.
Crypto night adventures too. It was the new rug. Hey, I did recently get a new rug. For being honest, I did. That's what I'm on right now. It's not a very nice rug, though. It's just made it easier for me to roll the chair. My rug, you can never be replaced. You're the original rug. Oh, okay. Too much information? Suddenly that's something that I don't just do every day. Every day I offer too much information. That's why I get mocked relentlessly. I've just been told, while we're waiting here, there's some dead air. I've just been told, I have no idea if this is true, that if you drink Celsius, which I love, that these can cause you to fail a DRUG test. I don't know if you're allowed to say that. How come you are not using your mic? I am using my mic. What are you talking about? Here's my mic. It's right here. Look. There's my microphone. It's just further away. I don't know. I have no idea how it's going to cause you to pop past it. Yeah, I didn't think it's true either. I've just been told that. So you guys sort it out in the comments. I have no idea if that's true or not. But I do know this. When I used to do the betting stuff instead, before I got into politics, I had not a deal, just like whatever. I don't even know how to explain it. But like with the Amazon, I had an affiliate link through Celsius, and I think I used to say, take a sip, take a shit. That was kind of, someone changed your name, to be like. All right. I used to say, take a sip, have a shit, or something like that. It's very true. I love coffee. I usually get energy drinks, and then I freeze them so they're slushy, and it keeps my my mouth cool when I'm talking. Hot coffee seems to dry out my mouth. And I don't have an iced coffee maker. Maybe I'll throw on an iced coffee maker on my Amazon wish list.
His testimony by Zoom.
As long as I can show him documents if he needs his memory refreshed, then that's fine.
Is your favorite sport rugby?
The state would have objections.
That was so-so.
Understood.
I don't know what rugby
Mr. Ward,
is that like
I think we're going to need continual updates from you. And also some kind of expectation of what this afternoon is going to look like. I was never informed of a medical appointment.
You can't see it.
I think the notice in this hearing indicated it would last at least 2 days. So right now, I think he's in violation of subpoena.
Right, that's a good joke.
Subpoena.
That's a good joke. I apologize. Yes, it is my favorite sport. I like that. It's my favorite sport because I can do it quickly. You know what I mean? It's a sport that I haven't. This is just, I don't know what's going on here. A bunch of procedural shit. I'll get back to it in a second when they get somebody on the stand. But I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. Rugby's my favorite sport because it's over quickly. I don't know if that's true. I have no idea how long. How long does a rugby match take? Does anybody know? How long is that? Let's Google it. How long is a rugby match? Just a reminder, Felice is never here till 9:30. I just joined because the hearing started. So, that's why she's not here. 80 minutes? Damn. Are there timeouts? It's stopped during intervals in order to ensure that... Okay, so they need the full... So if the ball goes out of play... So it's not like soccer. I played soccer, it's 90 minutes, but the clock didn't stop when the ball went out of play. It looks like it with rugby, they actually stopped the clock. For TMO checks, I don't know what that means. Injuries and substitutions. Huh. That's a lot of time to beat the shit out of each other. But for me, rugby lasts, seconds. I would say my one foray into rugby. I mean, if it's start to finish, including the whole build up, that took a while because I had to get the courage. But once I obtained the courage, the moment was over quite quickly. You know what I'm talking about, Rug. Let's see what they're saying.
At this point, I think we've got something else that can occupy our time, and I think we need to move forward with that. All right. Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
And I didn't learn about the equipment.
Right. Okay. Understood. Ms. Cross.
Mr. Labonte will,
Mr. John Floyd.
Mr. Floyd, if you could have a seat, sir.
Now we've got...
Can I approach the witness quickly?
Mr. Floyd, I'm not sure who this is.
Thank you. I do.
Please state the spell your full name for court.
My name is John Clifford Floyd III.
John Clifford Floyd III.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Can you tell the court, are you currently retired?
Yes, I am.
And prior to being retired,
empty in the
can you tell the
retirement
court a
home
little
today.
bit about, did you work in the legal career? Were you a
I
lawyer?
was an attorney.
This is
I
Fonnie
practiced
Willis's
law.
dad. Thank
I've
you.
probably tried 1,000 cases. About 50% of my practice was criminal law. 25% of it was family law, and the rest was whatever walked through the front door could pay for it.
Okay. And
Could we wait 1 second? The governor's come back. He might
I
have.
do. My calendar shows it was October 26th,
Yeah,
2020.
the former governor, the
All right,
last
and would defense counsel accept
person
it?
testifying, just like walked to the front of the room to tell him that he found his calendar. This is he just,
All right. I was
just
look for a
walked
show
right
of
up to the
hands,
front
or
of the
for someone
room.
to speak now on Zoom and hearing none. Thank you, sir. You're excused.
and sir, can you tell the court, are you from Atlanta?
No, I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. I spent most of my legal career, I would say, in Washington, D.C. was kind of the circle, but I've tried cases. About 50% of my practice was criminal law. 25% of it was family law, and the rest was whatever walked through the front door could pay for it.
Okay. And
Could we wait 1 second? The governor's come back. He might
I
have.
do. My calendar shows it was October 26th,
Yeah,
2020.
the former governor, the
All right,
last
and would defense
person
counsel accept it?
testifying, just like walked to the front of the room to tell him that he found his calendar. This is he just,
All right. I was
just
look for a
walked
show
right
of
up to the
hands,
front
or
of the
for someone
room.
to speak now on Zoom and hearing none. Thank you, sir. You're excused.
and sir, can you tell the court, are you from Atlanta?
No, I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. I spent most of my legal career, I would say, in Washington, D.C. was kind of the circle, but I've tried cases all over the country, and I tried the longest. I was the first lawyer to try an international criminal court. I was with the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. I was in trial there for 4.5 years in Arusha, Tanzania, and Hague in the Netherlands.
Okay. And when you weren't there, it sounds like your kind of center of gravity was Washington, D.C.
Correct, but I've tried cases in West Virginia, Maryland, Florida, California.
All
Yes.
over.
Yes.
And do you, sir, can you tell the court, do you have any children?
I have one daughter, Fonnie Willis.
Okay. And I want to direct your attention back to 2019, okay?
Yes.
Back in 2019, can you tell the court, did you move here to Atlanta?
I was living in Johannesburg, South Africa. And unfortunately, for some reasons, I could not get an extended visa. When I retired from the practice of law in 2018, I moved to South Africa. And I had to leave South Africa, and I did then come to Atlanta.
Okay, and do you, sir, remember about the time period in 2019 when you moved in with your daughter here in Atlanta?
It would have been the spring or summer of 2019.
And after you moved here, did you get a driver's license to kind of confirm your residency in Atlanta?
Well, my driver's license for the District of Columbia was going to expire on my birthday, which is in October. And yes, I did get a license here in the state of Georgia.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Good.
You can just take a look at what's been marked as stages.
Okay, Your Honor, would you, if you don't mind, my eyes are very bad, which is one of the reasons I retired, and so I need a magnifying glass, so I'll be
Whatever
constantly. Thank you. Yes, I see it was issued on 9/28/2019.
Okay. So before we get there, do you recognize State's Exhibit 2?
Yes, just my driver's license.
And is State's Exhibit 2 a fair and accurate copy of your physical driver's license?
Absolutely.
This time, Your Honor, the state would tender what's been marked as State's Exhibit 2 into evidence.
No question.
Seeing no other objections, is submitted. State's Exhibit 2 is submitted for the record.
Now, and for the
Yeah,
record,
South
Your
Africa
Honor,
during
the
apartheid
state
in
is going
South
to supplement
Central
State's
LA
Exhibit 2 with a redacted
during no
copy of
riots,
the
it sounds
license.
like.
The current
quite a
copy
lot.
is not redacted, with the address and things of that
All
nature.
right, and do we need to mark that differently in any way?
I will mark it as State's Exhibit 2A.
Perfect.
Now, you talked about when your driver's license was issued. Can you tell the court when was that driver's license here, your Georgia driver's license issued?
It was on 9/28/2019.
Okay, so September 28, 2019. Now, when you moved into District Attorney Willis's home, who lived there?
Well, my daughter lived there. I lived there, and from time to time, my grandchildren would come.
Okay, and did your grandchildren, were they at school coming and going?
Exactly. I think they were in school in various jurisdictions.
And during the time, how long did you live at or with Miss Willis and at her home here?
Thank you, Lindsay, for the donation. And this is for the best clap back at the Rug. So, Rug, you're now in the crosshairs.
Was elected about. I mean, I don't know if you want me to go through the whole thing, but that, Your Honor, if Your Honor will indulge me. After she was sworn in on January 1 of 2021, and on or about the 3rd of February, at probably 5:30 a.m. in the morning.
Not more rude than the rug burn you gave me.
There were people outside her house cursing and yelling and calling her the B word and the N word, and just, I mean, it was bizarre. Okay, I mean, it just.
Sorry. Pause, sir. Mr. Abadi. Here's the objection to you.
I would say it's effect on listener. He was present while all of these things were occurring, but I can.
No, that's. And he's saying he was personally present to hear these things?
Yes.
Okay, overruled.
Okay, and fortunately, the neighbors called the police and disbanded the group, and it was just, I mean, it was just, I hadn't seen anything exactly like it before.
Okay, and after that happened, can you tell the court that Ms. Willis would have to move from her home?
Yes, she was forced to leave.
Okay. And can you tell the court, after she was forced to leave, shortly after she was sworn in, did you remain at her home in Fulton County?
Yes, I stayed there really until 2022, I guess.
And from what you described, did you fear for her safety?
Absolutely. I mean, not only did I do that, I mean, the South Fulton police, they brought somebody, a man with a dog, because there have been so many death threats. And they said they were going to blow up the house. They were going to kill her. They were going to kill me. They were going to kill my grandchildren. I mean, on and on and on. It just, it became, and I was concerned for her safety.
And after those concerns came to your attention, and after what you heard and saw that day, you remained at the house?
Yes.
And can you tell the court, with what you just described, why did you remain living at the district attorney's home here in Fulton County?
Mr. Buck?
I believe it's relevant based on a lot of the questions that were asked yesterday of Ms. Willis as to about the security threat and the fact that it was implied that those threats were not necessarily real in the sense that Mr. Floyd remained in the home. There were many questions about the fact that he remained and her children could still come and go to the house. I think it's relevant based to the testimony that was elicited from defense counsels yesterday.
Overruled.
Well, these South Fulton police, first they put a car in front of the house that was there permanently, a police car. That was thing one. Thing two, they brought a person with a dog sometimes more than once a day, twice a day, and they would circle the house to look for bombs. I knew that was a house that my daughter had worked for. It was a brand new house. She's the only one who would ever live there. It's a 4-bedroom, brand new house, and somebody needed to protect the house, and I stayed there to basically take care of the house, to take care of the yard, to take care of that. Also, somebody sprayed, again, the B word and the N word on the house, and I don't think my daughter even knew that. I cleaned it off and called the police, and South Fulton police, they have, I'm sure, all the records of all the things that happened. And all of the neighbors, I notified all the neighbors to look out and to watch out. And it was so crazy. I mean, it was just so crazy. We'd have people would show up and park car. There was a guy parked for probably 8 hours out in front of the house. It was just, and we'd call the police and,
Now, at the time that you lived there with Ms. Willis, and I guess even when you remained, so during the time period of 2019 to the end of 2020, are you aware if Ms. Willis was dating someone?
Yeah, she did. She had a boyfriend when I first got there.
Okay. And did you meet her boyfriend?
Yeah, I met him often.
Okay, and did you know him by any specific nickname?
Yeah, Deuce.
Okay. Can you tell the court why you were living there? How often would you see him?
Sometimes every day, sometimes, every other day. He was a disc jockey or something, and he had all this paraphernalia that I'd have to move out. There was a thing with the keyboard, things that play music and so forth. So.
Now, when you moved in 2019, and then throughout the years in year 2020, 2021, had you ever met someone named Nathan Wade?
I did not meet Nathan Wade until 2023, about a year ago, when a reporter by the name of Issakoff interviewed me. I met him. That was the first time I met him.
You said that was in 2023?
2023, right.
And I know you said you hadn't met him until 2023, but when you were living at Ms. Willis's house in Fulton County, did you ever meet Mr. Wade in the year 2019?
Absolutely not.
How about in the year 2020?
Absolutely not.
Did you ever see Mr. Wade at Ms. Willis's Fulton County house in the year 2021?
Never.
And is it your testimony that the only time or the first time that you met Mr. Wade was in 2023?
Let me say something. Mr. Wade said that he remembers seeing me, and I do remember some banter. I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, and there's kind of this thing that goes on between fraternities, and Mr. Wade is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, and I do remember there was some kind of banter when my daughter was sworn in to be district attorney between me and a couple of guys, and he said he remembers me. I don't remember him.
And prior to that experience that you're talking about, as well as, I guess, your official meeting in 2023, Had you ever even heard his name?
No, never.
I don't think I have any further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Merchant.
Yes, thank you, Judge. How are you?
Fine. How are you, counsel?
Good, thank you. Just got a couple questions. On Monday, we heard you were in California. Do you have a place in California?
People always ask me about where do I live. I guess I live right here, sitting in this seat right now. But yes, the answer is I have a place in Los Angeles.
Okay, you do. All right. So, do you share time or split time between Los Angeles and Georgia?
Actually, I'm working on a documentary film, and I'm supposed to be being filmed not for this trial, but I'm supposed to be being filmed right now. It was planned, and we had to stop it because they asked me to come here. But the answer is I'm working on a documentary, and I'll be in California until I finish the documentary if we don't have another actor strike and we don't have another writer strike.
So, do you own property in California?
No, I don't. I live with a friend of mine.
You live with a friend of yours. Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you first move? Let me qualify with the dates. Did you spend any time in 2019 in California?
No, and the reason I didn't is that when I first came here, the answer is no, I did not. What happened was COVID. Once COVID hit, I was just paralyzed. I couldn't go any place. I couldn't go anything. I mean, I'm a theater buff. I used to go to theater at least once a week. But when COVID hit,
This is Fonnie Willis's
I couldn't
dad.
go to the dentist, which I need to do. Or, it was just a thing. So I was just stuck. I was just stuck there.
I may be wrong, but I believe COVID hit in 2020. So I was asking about 2019. In 2019, did you spend any time in California?
Before COVID was even here in the United States, remember I lived in South Africa and I've traveled the world. I knew COVID was coming before. I knew COVID was around before. They may have announced it in 20, but in fact, I knew about it and I knew what was happening in 19.
Okay, so let's walk through 2019 then. You said you moved here in September. So
no, I didn't say that. I moved here probably prior to September. In September is when I got the driver's license. I probably moved in the springtime.
I'm sorry, you did. You said spring, summer. I see that in my notes. So spring, summer 2019 is when you moved here. So up until spring, summer 2019, where did you live?
I lived in Johannesburg. Well, I lived in Washington, D.C., 2018. I had planned to retire for the rest of my life in South Africa. I had worked for Nelson Mandela and the Free Mandela and get that. And someone I'd gone to law school, he had located there after Mandela was freed from prison and became president. I was going to live there for the rest of my life, but unfortunately, because of political reasons, I could not stay in South Africa, and I was forced, in a sense, to come back to the United States.
Okay, so let's just focus in on the period from, let's just start with October 2019, okay? We'll call that the relevant period. October 2019 until the end of 2019. Were you in Georgia every single day of that year?
Absolutely.
Okay. So now let's move to 2020, okay? And every single day, before I move on, every single day in 2019, you slept at your daughter's house, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so let's start in 2020, all right? So 2020, the entire year, did you travel anywhere?
No.
Okay. You didn't travel at all that year?
No.
So,
and I didn't go to the movies, which upset me also.
So that entire year, 2020, you remained here in Georgia?
Right.
Okay. In 2021, did you do any traveling?
No.
Okay. So when did you move back, or when did you start this documentary film in Los Angeles?
What I had been doing to occupy time as I was writing my own memoir. As I delved into my family background, I discovered something, and that's what got me to working on the documentary. So I want you to understand what was going on in my life. I have a movie script called Bad Blood. I have a movie script we're trying to sell. So I tried to sell that, and I just happened to mention something that happened during the civil rights movement. SNCC, it's called the SNCC 5. The legendary Peter Fitzsimmons was interested, and so with Peter Fitzsimmons and Leah Smith, we're now doing the documentary. So
I don't want to interrupt you, but what I was asking was when you moved to Los Angeles, not what you moved there for.
Well, you keep saying moved. I haven't moved to Los Angeles. I spent more time in California, in Oakland, if you really want to just be, because Peter is basically San Francisco based. So we're working on the documentary.
Okay.
I was in Los Angeles because I was going to the Pan-African Film Festival. And that's why we were there. And the way Hollywood works is, you know, when you make connections, and film festivals are a place to try to sell ideas and meet people and organize things.
You still own property in Washington, D.C., correct?
No, I don't.
You don't own property at 1467 Roxana Road Northwest?
That's where I used to live.
That's where you used to live. Did you own that property?
Yes.
Okay. And you owned that property when you moved here in 2019?
Yes.
And you owned it in 2020, correct?
Well, now you talk about a very complicated issue. I left the property. There was a dispute between me, and I had gotten a reverse mortgage company, and there was a dispute between me and and I just I walked away from it.
Okay. You walked away from it with almost $300,000?
Yeah, what is the relevance of that?
Where he lived and registered to vote. That's what they brought in. So that's.
Why is the money he got from the sale relevant at all?
It's the only proof I have of that he owned that address. So I can move on now. Right. Okay. When did you sell that property?
I didn't. The reverse mortgage company took it.
Oh, okay. So in 2019, when you got your driver's license here,
yes,
the next day you registered to vote, correct?
I think it may have been the same day, but maybe it was the next day. I don't remember.
But you didn't own property here in Georgia that day?
No, I was living with my daughter.
Okay. You said that you met Mr. Wade, that you remember you met in 2023, right? That was the first time you
Correct.
remember? Okay. And I wasn't really clear. You said something about meeting him. Was it with Mr. Isikoff, or did Mr. Isikoff tell you?
No, I was being interviewed by Mr. Isikoff.
Okay.
And he walked in, and I met him. That was the first time. He walked into the office. And
where were you being interviewed?
At the district attorney's office.
And Mr. Wade walked into that interview?
Yes.
And so Ms. Willis had not told you about Mr. Wade prior to that?
Absolutely not.
So she didn't tell you anything about their relationship before you met him that day?
No.
But Mr. Wade remembers meeting you in 2020?
He said that at my daughter's swearing in. I do remember that we having some banner about fraternities, but other than that.
Oh, at your daughter's swearing in. Okay.
Right.
That's all I have. Just one moment. Nothing else. Thank you.
I can't find anything
Morning,
that they're
sir.
asking.
Good morning. How are you, counsel?
I'm
would prove
fine.
anything at all. I don't even know what.
I'll try to ask you some
accusations
specific
they're trying to make
questions if we could, okay?
And I'll give specific answers if I can.
Perfect.
Okay.
The driver's license address, I'm not going to publish. That is State's Exhibit Number 2. But is the address on that driver's license the home that you're referring to as your daughter's in South Fulton?
Absolutely.
Okay. It was unclear to me, maybe no one else, but it's unclear to me, when did you stop living at what I would call your daughter's home in South Fulton?
Things got so bad and threats got so many, even against me, that the house became basically uninhabitable.
Good point.
You know, I got tired of sleeping in one room one day and no one that. I would say December of 2022, something like that.
December of 2022.
Right. That's about right. Yeah.
now let me change and go back for another date. You had indicated, and I didn't hear it. When was your daughter, Miss Willis, when was she sworn in as district attorney?
On January 1, 2021.
Okay. And did you indicate that there was an incident, and I know you've described it, was that incident on February the 3rd, 2021?
That's my best recollection.
Okay. So my question then is, after February 3rd of 2021, how much longer did Miss Willis stay at the house before she moved somewhere else?
Very short period of time, and I cannot be precise, but I would bet all the money I ever made, it wasn't more than a month and a half, if that long.
Okay, so we're talking about, best of your recollection, end of February into the beginning of March, give or take, of 2021, when Miss Willis would have moved to a different location.
Exactly.
Okay. And did Miss Willis return to the house, that is, the house that you were in, at any point in time that you can remember?
From time to time, she and her security might show up for her to pick something up or take something or something,
Okay.
but she always would come with her security.
Okay. My question was poorly worded, I apologize. Did she come back permanently to her house?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
So as far as you're aware, that once Miss Willis left the house, her house, South Fulton House, so the record's clear, in either late February or into March of 2021, best of your recollection, she's not returned to that home to live.
No, it became uninhabitable. I mean, it just,
That's okay.
I would have to walk around that house looking out of every window. I made a habit of having to walk around the whole house. I got lights so that if somebody would come at night in the back, so that those kinds of reflecting lights, I had those put up.
I don't mean to again cut you off.
Okay.
All I was interested in is whether she had ever returned.
No, the answer is no.
Okay. Now, when Miss Willis, when your daughter left the home, time period, end of February, beginning of March, give or take, 2021, do you know where she moved to?
No, and I didn't want to know. I intentionally did not want to know, because I was not, if somebody stuck a gun to my head and I could tell them, I wasn't going to tell them anyway, or I'd have made up something, but I didn't want to know.
Okay, so would it be fair to say that if you didn't want to know, you never visited her at the place that she moved to?
Oh, I never did.
Never did?
Never did.
Okay. Do you know how long she stayed?
Remember, she said nobody ever stayed with her.
First place that she went to after she
They're
left
trying
her
to figure
house
out.
before she
Over and
moved
over, they're trying to just,
to a
all
second
they're trying to do
place.
is catch
What
Fonnie
I
Willis in a
know,
lie.
and this is
And it
hearsay,
hasn't worked
counsel,
one single time.
is that my daughter has had to move something like 4 times.
But do you know any potential?
No, I don't know any place. I was taken one time for Christmas Day. I've only seen my daughter, and this is very hard for me to say, but during the period my daughter left, I've only seen my daughter 13 times, because I can't, and we've never seen each other more than maybe 3 hours.
Just ask it a little differently and see if you can trip them up.
The
It's pretty
nightmare
gross.
threats against her and me.
And I understand that, and from the perspective of being a father myself, I understand what that means. So I'm going to move away from that. I was just trying to get an idea of date-wise, okay? So let me try to get one more date. In 2023, when you
CJ's
were being
baby.
interviewed
Good
by
morning.
one of the gentlemen that wrote the book at the DA's
Lying
office,
through here.
and Mr. Wade came in, can you
Lying
give
right
us,
there.
other than 2023, what the date would be?
I'm sorry, I can't counsel.
How about spring, summer, any idea?
I would guess spring or summer, but I can't. I don't. I'm sorry.
And you've already indicated, at least to your recollection, that was the first time that you'd met Mr. Wade.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I'm not arguing with you about that. I want to go to Miss Willis's boyfriend that you referenced. Okay, you met Miss Willis's boyfriend, as you've characterized it, when you came here in 2019.
Correct.
And you met him on one occasion, several occasions?
Oh, no, I saw him often.
Oh, so you mean there was no secret that she was dating this man?
Not from me.
Not from you.
And he was a disc jockey of some kind. I think he had a government job during the day. I don't know what it was, but apparently he would do weddings and so forth and so on. He was a disc jockey, played music, so he had all his stuff was always in the way, and I was always having to try to push it aside. And anyway.
But Ms. Wilson, your daughter didn't keep him from you, correct?
No.
No, I mean, there was no doubt.
We lived in, my daughter and I lived in the same house. I mean, and he came and went,
Right.
Priscilla.
Now, when did you learn that your daughter had a romantic, personal relationship with Mr. Wade?
Well, about 7 weeks ago, when as a matter of fact, I just found out when other folks found out. Okay.
That is, your daughter, as I understand it, never told you one time in the year of 2022 that she was dating Mr. Wade, correct?
That's correct.
And until recently, you didn't know from anyone, including your daughter, that she dated Mr. Wade, correct?
That's correct.
That is,
that helps her story.
Whatever a relationship is between father and daughter, she kept that a secret from you, correct?
Correct.
That's all I need to know.
Mr. Stockton.
No.
Notice how differently he talked to Fonnie Willis's father than the former governor. Just notice that.
Good morning, Mr. Good morning. Good morning, Council.
I'm just off camera because I'm stretching right now.
Left the house that she owned. Did she say anything to you about having a large savings of cash?
Oh, no, see, maybe, excuse me, and Your Honor, I'm not trying to be racist, okay? But it's a black thing, okay? I was trained, and most black folks, they hide cash or they keep cash, and I trained, you always keep some cash, because I've been places, and just because of the color of my skin, for example, I took a fellowship at Harvard when my daughter was just if I might, Your Honor, when I was just, she was just, maybe 3 years old. And I remember going to a restaurant in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I had a American Express credit card and maybe a Visa or whatever. And I had a lot of what they call traveler's checks. I don't even know if they still have traveler's checks, but traveler's checks. And there was a sign said, with the credit card. For whatever reasons, the man would not take my American Express credit card. So I pulled out my Visa card, and he wouldn't take my Visa card. So then I pulled out my traveler's checks. He said, we don't take checks. Now, these were traveler's checks. This was money. I had a $10 bill. I'll never forget this as long as I live. Traveler's check. And he said, the bill for my wife at the time, Fonnie's mother, Fonnie and myself, was like $9.95, and I had a $10 bill. That was all that. And I always remember that. But even before that, I've always kept cash. And I've told my daughter, you keep 6 months worth of cash always. For example, I had 3 safes in my house. I put some of my clients' stuff there too, things I didn't want other lawyers to be, because you're always in a firm, and I knew that there were special conditions, so some of my clients' things I would bring home, put them in the safe, but I've always kept safes, and as a matter of fact, I gave my daughter her first cash box and told her, always keep some cash.
So is that a yes?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's all I got, Judge.
Mr. Durham.
No questions.
Mr. McDougald.
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Rice.
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Gillen.
Yeah, good point.
It's still morning. Good morning, sir.
He's confirming your story from yesterday.
Just fine. Just a few questions following
The more
up.
people testify, the more credible Fonnie Willis is becoming, too.
You were talking about when you learned about Mr. Wade and your daughter, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Now, did your daughter tell you in around October of 2022 that she had gone on a Caribbean cruise with Mr. Wade to the Bahamas?
The answer is I knew that my daughter had gone but I did not know who she went with or what the circumstances were. So I knew that she had gone out of town, but I didn't know with whom.
I see. And did she tell you in November of 2022 that she had gone to Aruba and stayed at a Hyatt Regency resort there in Aruba for 3 days with Mr. Wade? Did she tell you that?
The answer was, again, I knew she went out of town. I didn't even know where she went. I knew she was going out of town. She told me she was going out of town. I think she might have said she's going out of the country or something. She'd be going. But other than that, that was all.
Okay. And did she tell you in March of 2023 that she was going to Belize for several days with Mr. Wade?
The same answer, that I knew she would tell me she was going out of town, and she may or may not have told me where she was going, but she'd be gone for a couple of days.
Okay. Now, in 2023, you were in many days you would be out in California, correct?
Some days I'd be in California, correct.
Okay. Well, did she tell you in May of 2023 that she was traveling to Napa Valley with Mr. Wade, so maybe y'all could see each other when she visited California with Mr. Wade?
I agree, Auntie Dane.
The answer is no.
And so the first time that you ever met Mr. Wade or learned about Mr. Wade, to your recollection, was in 2023?
That's correct.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Kajuroff, on Zoom.
Yes, Ron, just a couple quick questions. Good morning, sir. I know I can't see you.
I can't see you either, but
We can take a moment.
good morning, counsel.
We take a moment. Let's just pause, see if we can change the screens to show Mr. Kajuroff. Sorry. We need.
Your Honor, I'm on a phone, so it's kind of difficult.
Can you turn your screen on now?
I'm trying to.
Sounds like me trying to work a phone. Dude's on the golf course for sure. I've been this guy pretending my camera didn't work on a Zoom call when I was golfing. It's happened.
Does that work?
Just hold one more moment. All right, there we go. You can proceed, Mr. Kajuroff.
Sir, you seem to know about the issue of cash in this transaction. You said it was a black thing. How did you know that the cash was going to be an issue in this testimony?
Because I was asked for it, and I was prepped by the lawyers, and they asked me about it. What else?
And did you speak with Mr. Wade about your testimony?
No.
Did you speak with your daughter about your testimony?
She may have been present when the lawyers were. I really don't remember.
If Mr. Wade and your daughter were dating, you wouldn't have known that unless your daughter told you.
What do you? Maybe I'm not understanding your question, counsel. So maybe you want to restate. What is it that you're asking me?
Yeah, if it wasn't clear, I can re-ask the question. I'll rephrase it.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Mr. Wade. If Mr. Wade and your daughter were dating, you wouldn't have known that unless your daughter told you.
I did not know that they were dating. And when were you talking about the cash? I didn't know that. I don't know what you're asking me. What I told my child from the time she was a child is always have some money. Always have some money. If you go on a date so that people don't try to stick you and you want to leave whoever, always keep some cash, okay?
Mr. Floyd, you answered the question that the attorneys prepped you for that, so that's all I wanted to know.
Anything else, Mr. Kajuroff?
That's it, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Cromwell.
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Abadi?
Your Honor. Mr. Floyd, now, it wasn't common for your daughter to confide in you about her romantic life at all.
No, and I haven't confided in her about mine before when I had one, okay?
And you wouldn't have known about her boyfriend, the disc jockey.
Hey, Debs.
An objection?
I think that might have just been still off mute.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
Now, you wouldn't have known about her boyfriend, the disc jockey, had you not been living with her, correct?
That's correct.
I'll allow overruled.
So add nothing further.
I don't know if that froze me because I had to do one of those puzzle things again.
All right, by show of hands, any redirect on those points only. Ms. Merchant.
I just want to know when you were prepped by the lawyers, when this prep session was.
I just got off the plane on, what was it, Tuesday night? I think I was probably drooling at the mouth. I was so tired. So it must have been, I got in Wednesday. It must have been Wednesday.
Okay. And did you talk about any of the testimony from yesterday or watching the news?
That might have just been still off mute.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
Now, you wouldn't have known about her boyfriend, the disc jockey, had you not been living with her, correct?
That's correct.
I'll allow overruled.
I have nothing further.
I don't know if that
Did you
froze you
answer the
guys. I had to
question?
do one of those puzzle things again.
All right, by show of hands, any redirect on those
Yeah.
points only. Ms. Merchant.
I just want to know when you were prepped by the lawyers, when this prep session was.
I just got off the plane on, what was it, Tuesday night? I think I was probably drooling at the mouth. I was so tired. So it must have been, I got in Wednesday. It must have been Wednesday.
Okay. And did you talk about any of the testimony from yesterday or watching the news reports or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. You can't cut the TV on without seeing this. The first thing, and I listen to conservative radio a lot, and, last night for 5 hours, all they talked about was this case.
So you were aware of what the testimony your daughter gave yesterday was?
Yeah, unless you don't cut the radio on, unless you don't cut the television on, unless you don't read the AJC or any other, the New York Times or whatever, which I do every day, of course.
So is it fair to say nobody instructed you that you were under the rule of sequestration?
Right, and I was not under subpoena either.
Thank you.
All right, anything else? Seeing and hearing none? Thank you. All right, Ms. Cross, let me check in. Was the state planning to call additional witnesses?
Not at this time, Your Honor. We're again trying to accommodate if there's a
Sure.
last schedule to be able to this afternoon. But right now, that was the last witness.
Okay, so even if Mr. Bradley testifies to some extent, it's still the potential that the state has no further witnesses?
I anticipate at least one more will be available this afternoon, but that would be it.
Okay, so there are potentially more state's witnesses. All right.
Judge, before we move on, I'd move to strike the last witness's testimony.
All right, so I think the rule is invoked and the instruction was for the parties to tell all witnesses subpoenaed or expected to appear about the rule. I don't think the remedy is necessarily striking. I think it can go also to this credibility as well. So to that extent, unless Ms. Cross, you want something else to be heard on that, point is made. All right. Do we have an update for Mr. Bradley?
Yes, Your Honor. Yeah, he should be here at 12:25.
Okay. Then what I think we should do is have these preliminary conversations about privilege, see if we can make any headway, and then take our afternoon break. So to that end, Council.
All right, that's just gonna be procedural stuff. So we'll bounce out there. Good morning, Felice. You're on mute, but good morning.
Good
morning.
morning.
Oh, of course, it's that thing. I hear you, but everyone else can.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay.
Beautiful. Good morning. You were a content making machine this morning.
Yep. There's a lot of stuff to talk about.
Well, let's jump into it. What do you want to talk about first?
Well, do you want to talk? I mean, do you want to sum up what has been going on and what we just heard, or?
I mean, we could. I don't really know why the former governor was being questioned. I haven't really figured that out.
I know why. I can tell you why. It's because it's important to understand that governor, that was, and it goes to the point that Fani Willis said yesterday that Nathan Wade wasn't even her first choice. They don't have a large budget for this investigation. Any lawyer, it's about a 50% pay cut what they're paying these people. Like if you make between $600 and $1,000 for billable hours, and then these people are making like 300 something, or even it might be less than that. So her point was he is the person that she wanted first, and that's why he was going over like all the cases he's tried, the different types of. That was Fani Willis's first choice. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I had it muted. Sorry, okay. I missed that. I was in and out of the room while I was going. I missed why that was important, but I didn't realize that she had tried to hire him. Okay, that makes sense. So that goes to show from her testimony yesterday, that proves she's like, this wasn't my first choice. Like, it wasn't where she wanted to go. So that's gonna be their defense against, like, oh, this was, you just chose somebody that you wanted to sleep with.
She was there. Just in case they're trying to show that is the person she first went and attempted to hire.
Okay, this is why Felice is here. And then her dad testified, which I think just goes to back up her a lot of her claims. Number one, it backed up the claim that she keeps a lot of cash on hand, and that was something that she learned as a child. Yesterday, they just kept trying to nail her on, oh, well, where did you take the cash out of? Why is there not where's the transaction that says you took the cash out of an ATM? And she said, like, yeah, as a black woman, like, I was taught that you carry cash, that you consistently carry cash, and her dad backed that up. Also backed up that nobody had been to her new residence, backed up that she left her residence because she was scared, backed up that she wanted her dad to leave, but her dad didn't want to leave, backed up the threats that she was giving, shows that there was a reason for her to move. I thought it was a good morning for Fani Willis.
Yeah, well, and in general, it's important to just always remember when we're hearing this is an evidentiary hearing. Fani Willis, as she stated, she doesn't need me to repeat it, but is not on trial, right? She doesn't have a burden of proof. Like, she's been charged with no crime. Like, right. This is, and I also, and to that point, so it's important to remember that it's not like this woman is accused of doing something wrong. It has to prove otherwise, right? Like, right. There is no evidence that has been presented at this time, which I watched a lot of commentary with lawyers as well. I'm not just pulling this out of thin air, but there's just been no contradictory evidence, right? Like, in order at an evidentiary hearing, what we'd want to see is Fani Willis is saying, hey, we split these trips, right? Like, this is how it's all done. There's questions like, did he misreport the numbers, like in his divorce case? Like, all of that was ironed out. The math is mathing on there. Like, it all makes sense. They've explained it. And now what we'd want to see, or what they would want to do is bring up a witness that has a contradictory statement or evidence to that story. And as of now, they have not presented that. And I think also what should be encouraging to people is, while this judge is young, he seems very fair, very reasonable. Like, I don't know that I've ever said this about a judge, but I think he's about the fair, he's a fair guy.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know if I trust him is the right word, but I almost want to say that. Like, I think whatever the ruling is here, like, I don't think it will be coming from a place of bias in any way.
I mean, we've watched him before in previous hearings. He seems like the type of judge that doesn't want to be heard unless he absolutely has to. Like, he seems to care a lot about being impartial. Seems to care a lot about, like, giving the same leeway in both directions. I think that, like, looking at the reactions, just my reaction versus the reaction from the right yesterday, I think that, like, sometimes we get stuck in this sidesism. Where obviously that attorney yesterday, whatever his name was extremely combative to Fani, and you can draw some conclusions about that attorney if you want to, and I think many of them would be fair. And I was thinking, like, why didn't the judge step in? And then I remembered he allowed Fani Willis a great deal of leeway in answering her questions, in her herself controlling the conversation, cutting people off. I just think he does a good job of trying as best he can to remain. To keep the appearance of impartiality.
Yeah, again, like, all we can look for, or what the judge is looking for, is contradictory evidence to the story that is being explained very well. It's very credible, and so they need someone to poke holes in that story. Terrence Bradley, I'm sad that, like, whatever's going on, hopefully Terrence is healthy, situation or something, but that is Nathan Wade's divorce lawyer. So probably after the lunch break, it sounds like that he is probably the last, like, big consequential witness, and they're still debating what can he say, what can he not say. But yeah, like, that will probably be the last piece of it. But what needs to happen is someone needs to say, hey, you know, this story they're telling that they split these trips, blah, blah, blah. Like, here's my evidence, or here's what I know. I was told firsthand that is contradictory to that.
Yeah. And, you brought up a good point. So far, they haven't poked really any holes in anything. I mean, unless Terrence Bradley was saving some testimony and he has some bombshell evidence, like outside of that, I don't really know what Terrence Bradley could possibly add, any sort of context he could add that would dispute any of these claims. I mean, if you lay out how this went, clearly Fani Willis tried to hire somebody else. She eventually settled on Nathan Wade. By the time the investigation started, their relationship was over. It appears to be kind of a contentious breakup where, just trying my best to read through the lines, it appears that maybe Nathan Wade thought the relationship was over before she did, but then they had the conversation, and then she continued to work with him. Right? Like, I actually think she's handled this well, because she didn't disclose to the people she was working with that she was dating Nathan Wade. She also didn't disclose to them that they broke up and that it seemed to be contentious. Like, she continued to act professional throughout that. And she had many opportunities to do things that weren't professional. She had many opportunities to be vindictive, or, she could have fired Nathan Wade right after that. I actually think the fact that what they've laid out makes her look more credible. I think every time they've brought up a story, the longer she spoke, the more credible she became.
Yeah, I think that there's no one that would say this didn't go well for Fani. And it's also important to remember that what probably was going to happen, and we won't know now, was when Fani yesterday burst into the courtroom, when she heard that the last witness was done and just came into the courtroom, what Judge McAfee was about to say, or probably was going to say, was she probably was not going to be called, because there is a very high burden of proof for an evidentiary hearing like this to have the district attorney called to the stand. So she probably did not even have to testify, but she was like, no, like, I waived that. I'm here. I'm going to just clear all this up. Like, of her own volition, they might have treated her like a hostile witness, but she was there completely voluntary to set the record straight, told the same story over and over and over again. She is as credible a witness as I've ever seen.
Yeah. Two quick comments before I respond to that. Michelle is donating toward Felice's gifts for her bridge friends.
Oh, yeah,
bridge
thank
friends.
you.
I was
Yes,
thinking the card game bridge.
I don't know how to play bridge. Yeah, that's what I do. What if I did have a bridge club? I don't know. I've never played bridge.
Me neither. And then from RTP's Rug, sent a donation for lotion for the rug burn. Sorry, I was a little wild. Apology accepted, and I'll make sure I get something with aloe in it to.
Guys, let's tap the screen. Let's get to 70K. Let's invite some Republicans.
Well, I guess the biggest news story of the day, is the story of Alexei Navalny. Do you want to just briefly recap who he is and what we know so far?
Yeah, well, Alexei Navalny has long been the opposition leader. If Russia's not a democracy, if it was, he would, be running against Putin in the upcoming election. He recently, I read, the last thread I read of his to you guys was right before Christmas when he was shipped, which usually is unfortunately the last stop. That's when alarm bells started going off for everyone that something was wrong, because he disappeared. His lawyers couldn't locate him in the prison system for quite some time. Then he resurfaced and had been shipped to Siberia, to the Gulag.
Credit to you. You've been predicting this for months now.
Well, because he's been poisoned multiple times. The reason Alexei Navalny is in prison in Russia was because he was poisoned by Putin and was recovering in a hospital in Germany and was charged with defecting for not being in Russia. He went back to Russia saying I'm going to keep fighting the good fight, knowing he was going to be in prison and thinking as the opposition leader, it was his best to show the Russian people he wasn't going to disappear, and just stay in Germany. Like, he went back knowing he'd be jailed and probably never get out of jail. And all of this is going down. All of Trump talking about we don't need to honor the NATO alliance, like all of this in real time. Now we had Mike Turner of Ohio, the Republican that heads up the very powerful intelligence committee, coming out and talking about these threats that they're being read into in skiffs coming from Russia. All of this is going on. And this morning we wake up and the opposition leader, remember we were talking with that kid after Tucker's interview, and he's just like, Russia's a great place. And I'm just like, it's because you're too young to understand. First of all, this story Putin's telling, he has told many times before. He's a broken record. And also, like, his own opposition leader is in prison in Siberia. And that's funny because we said that about a week ago, and a week later, he's no longer here.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on from the right saying that, like, even trying to whitewash, say, oh, Navalny wasn't really a threat to Putin. He was polling at 2%. I don't know where they're getting that. He's been progressively getting more popular. I think his approval rating, his polling got up to somewhere around 20%. So, yeah, he wasn't polling at 70%, but like
people
those
are jailed
polls are all
for support.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you're
not going to publicly.
Yeah, you can't publicly support. You can't. That's why it's like, oh, the grocery. Like yesterday, Tucker's like, look at this nice grocery store. Yeah, but if you hold hands, if you're a lesbian and you hold hands with someone, you are disappeared. If you support Alex Navalny and they know about it, you're disappeared. Like,
right.
It's but the grocery store is nice.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Outlaw Bandit asked why you can't gift. We're participating in CoinCot through the end of this month.
You can gift.
So you can gift. We're just not taking gifts through TikTok. You can send gifts through Venmo or Cash App. You can also add a personalized message that we will gladly read.
The message
live.
is the point. Write us a funny message or declare your love for one of us or anyone else. Give us your grocery list, like tell us about your last doctor's appointment, whatever. But the funny message is kind of the point, right?
Give us your Russian grocery list.
We're almost to 70K. Oh, we made it. Literally, I said it. We made it. Keep tapping the screen. Let's get to 75K. Some of you are here for the politics, some for the finger workout. Let's keep it going, guys. What?
Every time you say finger, like I'm just a child.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I'm laughing.
Oh, is that why? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just a child. That's the only reason I'm laughing. I put out a TikTok on it. I'm sure you did too. On Tucker Carlson. Is Tucker allowed to leave Russia? What's he doing there?
He's terrified right now. I said that I was worried for him. And I mean that. Like, he's in over his head is where he is. He's
That video was not good. The quality of the video is terrible. What he's saying is absolutely silly. Russia, the average Russian spends 60% of their income on groceries. So Tucker's there saying like, oh, the groceries are so cheap and there's no crime. Like, that's in Russia, you make enough money to just exist. You don't own your house, you don't have a savings, most people never will.
Are you
go on
talking
vacation.
about a new clip or are you talking about yesterday's? Because I haven't, if there's another clip,
just yesterday's clip of him in the grocery store. Okay. Yeah. These people, this is a oligarchy where the people are limited with, they basically can't do anything. They can just show up and go to work every day. That's all they make enough money for. And Russia's in there, or Tucker's in there bragging about it. And then at the weird part at the end, oh, and by the way, we're not making any of this up. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Why did you
That's
say
the
that?
same thing when
so bizarre.
Remember at the beginning of the interview video when I knew Putin like told him to say something when he's like, I'm saying this completely because I felt like it. Like, I misunderstood and I thought like he was trying to like stonewall me or whatever, or what do you call it when you filibuster? I thought it was a but I was wrong. Like when has Tucker ever behaved?
It was my fault.
Yeah, so weird. Very thoughts and prayers. But that's his dream. You know what I mean? This is what he wanted.
And I don't know what kind of protection Tucker has, but where he went, you very easily could just be like, hey, by the way, you're not leaving. And if you don't do what we say, then you're really not leaving. I know this is conspiratorial, but I don't know why he's still there. I don't know why he put up that clip in a grocery store. I have no idea what Tucker is doing there at this point. Just legitimately just doing Russian propaganda now. That's just his whole role. It's bizarre.
I mean, yeah, I think though it's just a larger question. Like it's not that I don't care about Tucker, but you know what I mean? He doesn't care about me and I don't care about him. Like I think it's just what has happened to one of the bravest men, like Alexei Navalny, is a crime against humanity. And there will be no repercussions. Like, let me see if I have this.
If I remember right, while you're pulling that up, Navalny, the first time, or one of the first times when he was poisoned, he was in Germany, and then he was sanctioned for not coming home, but he was in the hospital, right?
Yeah, that's why. Yeah,
but what was the sanction?
He's in prison. No, he's not. I don't know if he was in prison. I mean, that's why he was in prison now, is because he was supposed to be coming home to Russia. He was ordered home to Russia. I think he was poisoned on a plane, maybe, and then it landed in Germany, and that's where he was treated. I can't remember the actual story, but he was to return. He was ordered to go to Russia and didn't come back because he was, unalive, or there was an attempt on his life. He was recovering in Germany, and that's why he knew when he returned to Russia, he was going to prison.
Right. Somebody said, are you sure Tucker's video isn't a deep fake? No, I'm not. I have not checked that. If it is, I apologize for posting a deep fake, but I doubt it, because I think it came from his Twitter profile, or his Twitter.
No, it's not. What do you mean? It's not.
Somebody just asked. I was just responding to the comment.
There's a security conference in Munich where Navalny's wife was scheduled to speak. Kamala's there. All world leaders are there. It's obviously a huge deal. So now this is Kamala this morning.
Before I begin today, we've all just received reports that Alexei Navalny has died in Russia. This is, of course, terrible news, which we are working to confirm. My prayers are with his family, including his wife, Yulia, who is with us today. And if confirmed, this would be a further sign of Putin's brutality. Whatever story they tell, let us be clear, Russia is responsible. And we will have more to say on this later.
Yeah, officially, they're just saying it's no big deal. They're saying he went for his morning walk in Siberia and he collapsed and lost consciousness, and they tried to revive him, but they couldn't. And I think maybe they're saying, I don't know if they say it's blood clot or, just kind of saying no idea what happened here. But I mean, it's long been reported. And one of the reasons his lawyers have tried to keep such a close eye on him is because he's been being tortured in prison for years.
Right. We have in this country, we have the Magnitsky Act, which was from Sergei Magnitsky. It's a very similar story. He was put in prison as an attorney representing somebody who had exposed corruption in their financial system. And then while in prison, Magnitsky developed gallstones, pancreatitis, and calculus cholecystitis. I don't know what that is. Not given medical treatment, and then eventually beaten. When we passed the Magnitsky Act here in the United States, it was a bipartisan bill with, I'm trying to remember who it was. It was John McCain and somebody else that co-sponsored it. But anyways, we do now have laws on the books, and I would expect Joe Biden to use the Magnitsky Act. What it allows us to do is sanction Russia when something like this happens, specifically specific Russian oligarchs or members of their. What, do we want to say government? I don't know. Does that need to be in parentheses to say that they have a government? I don't know what they have, but we do have ways to react. It'll be interesting to see what the Biden administration decides to do with this. But mostly,
what did you said that we have ways of reacting?
Through the Magnitsky Act, yeah. Because of the Magnitsky Act, we have the ability to sanction Russia for these type of acts.
This is the reality about that, though. it's a larger conversation, and actually I wasn't going to really bring it up because I didn't finish the article, but there's a great article, and there's been a series of articles written in the New York Times. Like, we have sanctioned, there's no more sanctions to sanction Russia. We've sanctioned out of Russia alongside the EU, and the larger conversation is like, why isn't it working? How have they been able to get around that? And like, our sanctions aren't working,
right?
Essentially.
Yeah.
Is the issue.
We need to readdress that, because what the Magnitsky Act essentially is supposed to allow us to do is to freeze the assets of Russian oligarchs or government
they're
officials
frozen
for
currently.
anything here.
That's why we sanction, like, that's what is going on since the Ukraine thing. That's why we were rounding up all their yachts, freezing their accounts in the EU. Like, we've been trying, but largely, South Asia is still doing business with Russia. So, but I mean, we will see. I assume we should hear at some point today from Dark B. So.
All right. Well, that's a dark start to the morning. What's next? Anything else we need to add on that? Is there any other context we need to provide there?
I
can't think of any. All right. Well, let's move on to another moron, Comer. Yesterday was not a great day for Republicans. It's a tough day for Republicans when the person who you are relying on to impeach Joe Biden turns out to be a documented liar who's now under federal investigation. That's a tough way to begin an impeachment hearing. I don't know if there's a worse way to begin an impeachment hearing, but it would be hard to imagine a worse way. Alexander Smirnov has been charged with making false statements and obstruction as it relates to Smirnov's conversations with law enforcement officials about President Joe Biden and his son Hunter. I read the indictment this morning, and I guess you said you were going to get to it a little bit later today, so we can cover more tomorrow. But anything in that
just
indictment
if you read it, go over it.
Well, no, I was just going to ask anything you've seen so far that stands out to you that maybe wasn't reported. I mean, we've mostly seen the reporting. The reporting essentially is that there's a few claims that were made. One of the claims that was made was that the head of Burisma on a phone call told him what was his name? Smirnov.
Smirnov with
Smirnov.
With
Smirnov.
a V. Yeah.
That they had given both Joe Biden and Hunter Biden $5 million as a bribe while Joe Biden was in office in order to take care of Burisma, which is crazy, absolutely crazy, considering that the reaction or the action Joe Biden took was to fire the prosecutor who refused to investigate Burisma. And as soon as they fired that prosecutor, the owner of Burisma fled to Russia, and so did the prosecutor. So it's insane. But the main thing that we see here is that these claims, although they happened in apparently 2016 and 2017, he didn't bring these claims until 2020, despite the fact that he had been questioned. So it was a very bizarre thing, like how late these claims came up. These were the most damning claims. And this is what the Republicans have relied on. I think you had a clip, maybe it was yesterday or today, I can't remember, of Comer basically like bragging about the validity of these claims, right? Is that you that had that clip?
Yeah, well, yeah, we're kind of out of, well, first of all, so what this is about, it's kind of sounds very murky, but it's really, so originally this whole case was built on a 1023 form. A 1023 form is a form that anyone can fill out. I can fill it out, you can fill it out, anyone can fill it out, anyone can write whatever they want on it. It's essentially just a whistleblower making a claim. All we heard was that there was this 1023 form that existed. Once we started looking into it, if you remember, Bill Barr had investigated this 1023 form when he was in charge and determined it to be unsubstantiated pack of BS, and came out and said as much about it. The 1023 form essentially made a lot of wild claims that the impeachment inquiry was based off of. And they used this conspiracy theory because Christopher Wray then echoed and said, Bill Barr has already debunked this whole thing. The claims are BS. Like, I'm not going to give you a form that has a bunch of lies on it. And then if you remember, there was this huge stink. James Comer, Margarine, they did press conference after press conference saying that Christopher Wray was obstructing justice. So he showed it to them in a skiff. Margarine basically then ended up like saying everything that was on it anyways and releasing it. They used the 1023 form, the basis of which is all of the lies. That was what they referred back to every time, was Alex Smirnov's testimony in the 1023 form. It turns out like the indictment is basically just systematically breaking down that what he said, and it all leaned on that he had talked to prosecutors, like the people in Ukraine during the time when Joe Biden was vice president. And that turns out like the most glaring thing in the indictment is that the timeline is wrong. He never even spoke to anyone in Ukraine until after like Joe Biden didn't even have the power to be doing anything. The math isn't mathing. The facts inside that whistleblower 1023 form are fraudulent as well. And the larger question is, when did Comer know, right? Like they know what's going on. Why are you waiting until the indictment comes out? You're allowing, I mean, he's built an impeachment inquiry on lies and never corrected himself.
Look, yeah, that's the best question is what was the point here? If you knew James Comer, one, why didn't you just end it? Or at least say, like, we're not going to use this witness anymore. Why did you wait for this? But one of the things I read that was really interesting is in section 5, it says, in addition, when the defendant was authorized to engage in illegal activity for investigative purposes, he was further admonished that under no circumstance may the CHS, which I think is confidential human source, is that right? CHS? I think so. Participate in an act that constitutes obstruction of justice, examples being perjury, witness tampering, witness intimidation, entrapment, fabrication, alteration, or destruction of evidence unless such illegal activity has been authorized. So defendant was given this admonishment. He signed an FBI form that contained this statement. Multiple times he signed a form in 2014, 17, 18, 19, and 2020. And despite that, it says that on... where is it? Where did we go? Defendant provided false derogatory information to the FBI about public official 1, which is Biden, an elected official in the Obama Biden administration who left office in January 2017, and business person 1, the son of public official 1, in 2020 after public official 1 became a candidate for president of the United States. So again, just like you were pointing out, they had worked with this person since 2014, and it wasn't until 2020, after Joe Biden had been declared a candidate for president, that suddenly this story emerged.
I have some clips we could play about it. I found them.
Please.
Okay.
Real quick, just to, I guess this is for both of us. This is from Michelle. F, Mary, kill Biden, Romney, Jon Stewart. This was they're trying to get me to unalive Romney. I'm marrying Jon Stewart.
I'm unaliving Romney. Like, are you kidding? He doesn't even want me to be able to have rights. Of course I am.
All right, I'm marrying Jon Stewart because he'll make me laugh and he can support me. Romney's toast, and me and Biden are going to have a one-nighter, and it's going to be quite a story.
I probably the other way around. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't even matter. But yeah, probably. I concur.
Just to remind folks who Smirnoff is.
That's a good idea. We should do a whole day of different F, marry, kills. That'd be really funny. Like if you come up with like different politicians or whatever the case may be.
To remind folks who Smirnoff is, because they might not know the name.
Right.
This was the individual that had claimed that he had been told by somebody who ran Burisma that Joe Biden himself was going to get $5 million for all these shady dealings.
Right.
This is the guy that Senator Chuck Grassley was insisting that this FBI report be revealed to the public.
Correct.
This was the guy who basically provided hours worth of content on Fox, especially in prime time. This was the guy who James Comer, the guy who runs the House Oversight Committee, was relying on as a major source of information, and the FBI is saying the guy's a liar. In fact, so much so we're charging him with a crime.
Correct, Jake. I mean, look, again, what the Republicans are saying is that one of the reasons why they were relying on him is that they believed he was credible, that the FBI was using him as an informant, and that gave him credibility. What we're seeing, though, in these documents, in this indictment, is that all of that was fictitious. He came up with this story after Joe Biden became the presumptive candidate for the Democrats in 2020. And of course, after he had already gone to Republicans to make some of those allegations to Chuck Grassley and to others.
Yeah. So let me turn this down really quick. Okay. So, we'll go into this a little bit more, but it's also important to remember Fox's role. Like, Fox had hundreds of interviews. Like, they just paid out, just under 800 million to, for defamation. And they pushed defamation for months and months and months and months. And Chris Hayes always does a great job, but he did a great job calling that out. Hold on. As soon as this loads, I will play it.
Yeah. How many times did we hear this guy's name and Bobolinsky on Fox News? It was like every fifth word was Smirnov and Bobolinsky.
Oh my gosh. And yeah, Bobolinsky's another one. He is absolute God. That's a whole nother. He just did it thank you for bringing that up, because we never talked about it. It's also important to know Bobolinsky just did a closed door deposition. They're refusing to release the deposition. Comer went on Newsmax and went on Hannity and said that Raskin, Jasmine Crockett, Moskowitz, Dan Goldman, that they were intimidating and bullying a witness. But basically, none of his testimony held up under cross-examination. I was listening to Robert Garcia say it, like, you'll never see this transcript because it's just it's this man telling a pack of lies.
Well, and and let's remember that's Comer. That's what Comer tried to do with Hunter Biden, and that's his, he says, "Oh, don't worry, we'll release the transcript later." Well, where's the transcript?
Guys, tap the screen. Let's get to 100K. We're almost there.
While we're going through this, just a reminder to everybody that this is Republicans. This is literally the only thing that your elected leaders are doing. The only thing is just trying to impeach everybody from the Biden administration. And every time they do, they get embarrassed. Every single time. This is what you guys are voting for, is this.
This is all of our tax dollars and months. The 118th Congress, the least successful Congress in history, this is what they're up to. This is what they're spending time and money doing instead of handling the border.
Yelling from the rooftops about Burisma and alleged bribes paid not only to Hunter Biden, but to Joe Biden, to the man himself, the president of the United States, who was then vice president. That idea of illicit, secret, seven-figure bribes to the man who's currently president has been the central point of their whole attack. And today, in the most spectacular embarrassment imaginable, it blew up in their faces. You see the special counsel, Republican appointee, leading the case against Hunter Biden, who was appointed by Donald Trump, now says that guy, this informant they hung their entire claim on about the bribe, he lied. Their infamous FBI informant is being federally, criminally charged for making it all up.
Documented allegations of bribery from a trusted FBI confidential human source has now finally been released. Now, its contents are devastating.
Okay, I am sparing you the amount of Sean Hannity I could play you. For my sins, I watched about 30 minutes of monologues. But in his show, Fox host Sean Hannity alone promoted the claim of this single FBI informant no less than 85 times last year. 28 of those segments were monologues, very long monologues, in addition to all the breathless so-called reporting. And this is across the right-wing media. Hannity had House Oversight Committee Chairman and Chief Biden crime family investigator James Comer on as a guest 43 times in 2023. Today, James Comer and Sean Hannity's favorite informant, the smoking gun to their investigation, was arrested at Harry Reid International Airport in Las Vegas. He was indicted on 2 counts of feeding the FBI false information about President Joe Biden's son Hunter. According to that indictment, 43-year-old Alexander Smirnov's story about Burisma officials paying the Bidens million, quote, was a fabrication, an amalgam of otherwise unremarkable business meetings and contacts.
And there you have it. And think about all of the people that have been indoctrinated and relentlessly talk about the Biden crime family, a term coined by Fox News. Like this, it was all made up. And are we going to hear from anyone acknowledging that? Or any of these people? Like, Hannity definitely didn't acknowledge it. Oh, wait, you know who did acknowledge it? Let me, you're going to get a
I'm going to guess
this.
Laura Ingraham, Judge Janine, probably.
It's
OAN.
much worse.
Newsmax.
No. Trump. Actually, probably the smartest one. The guy that came to D.C. in a covered wagon and never left. Chuck Grassley. And I will say, it's actually genius. It's actually kind of a genius strategy. It's so insane that it's pure genius. Yeah. His strategy is legitimately to take credit for it. As if he discovered that the man was lying and reported it himself. Listen, the spokesperson added, it's clear that only after Senator Grassley made the FD 1023 public did the FBI investigate the allegations in the document. Grassley has sought to, quote, ensure the DOJ and FBI investigated the FD 1023. End quote. Today's indictment makes clear that without Senator Grassley's oversight and exposure of the FD 1023, the agency would have continued neglecting its duties and failing to provide the transparency the American people deserve, the spokesperson said. Congress shouldn't have to threaten contempt to obtain a classified document. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
This man tried to take false information to smear the president of the sitting president of the United States. Not like Trump, they call him the president, the actual genuine president of the United States, made up blatant lies about him, started having hearings about it to impeach him. And now this is just the gaslighting. Why do we want to elect people who gaslight us and are now saying, you're welcome? That's Chuck Grassley's response for this whole thing, wasting our time, wasting our tax dollars, everything. You're welcome.
Do you want to cut to Biden real quick, speaking?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, we'll do that.
Dark B. Guys, tap the screen. Work those fingers out.
On Ukraine. Now, as I've said before, and I mean this in a literal sense, history is watching. History is watching the House of Representatives. The failure to support Ukraine at this critical moment will never be forgotten. It's going to go down in the pages of history. It really is. It's consequential. And the clock is ticking. And this has to happen. We have to help now. You know, we have to realize what we're dealing with Putin. All of us should reject the dangerous statement made by the previous president that invited Russia to invade our NATO allies if they weren't paying up. He said if an ally did not pay their dues, he'd encourage Russia to, quote, do whatever the hell they want. I guess I should clear my mind here a little bit and not say what I'm really thinking, but let me be clear. This is an outrageous thing for a president to say. I can't fathom from Truman on, they're rolling over in their graves hearing this. As long as I'm president, America stands by our sacred commitment to our NATO allies, as they have stood by their commitments to us repeatedly. Putin and the whole world should know, if any adversary were to attack us, our NATO allies would back us. And if Putin were to attack a NATO ally, the United States will defend every inch of NATO territory. Now's the time for even greater unity among our NATO allies, to stand up to the threat that Putin's Russia poses. You know, I send my deepest condolences to Alexei's staff and supporters. We're going to continue his work despite this loss, despite all of Putin's desperate attempts to stamp out the opposition, and most of all to his family, especially to his wife, his daughter, and his son, who have already sacrificed so much for their family and a shared dream for a better future for Russia. So I just want to say God bless Alexei Navalny. His courage will not be forgotten, and I'm sure it will not be the only courage we see coming out of Russia in the near term. Thank you. I'll be happy to take a couple questions.
So first, was this an assassination?
The answer is we don't know exactly what happened, but there is no doubt that the death of Navalny was the consequence of something that Putin and his thugs did.
And to be clear, you warned Vladimir Putin when you were in Geneva of devastating consequences if Navalny died in Russian custody. What consequences should he and Russia face?
That was 3 years ago. In the meantime, they faced a hell of a lot of consequences. They've lost and or had wounded over 350,000 Russian soldiers. They've made in a position where they've been subjected to great sanctions across the board, and we're contemplating what else could be done. But what we were talking about at the time, there were no actions being taken against Russia. And look, all this transpired since then.
Whether you're looking at increasing sanctions on Russia right now?
We're looking at a whole number of options. That's all I'll say right now.
Is there anything you can do to get ammunition to the Ukrainians without a supplemental from Congress?
No, but it's about time they step up, don't you think? Instead of going on a 2-week vacation. 2 weeks. They're walking away. 2 weeks. What are they thinking? My God. This is bizarre. And it's just reinforcing all the concern and almost, I won't say panic, but real concern about the United States being a reliable ally. This is outrageous.
Are you more confident now that you'll get the Ukraine aid, given what's happened today?
Well, I hope to God it helps. But I mean, the idea we need anything more to get the Ukraine aid. I mean, this is in light of a former president's statement that saying Russia, if they haven't paid their dues to us, go get them. Come on. What are these guys doing? What are they doing?
Sir, how concerned are you about the anti-satellite capability that Russia is developing? And what is your administration planning to do in response?
First of all, there is no nuclear threat to the people of America or anywhere else in the world with what Russia is doing at the moment, number one. Number two, anything that they're doing or they will do relates to satellites in space and damaging those satellites potentially. Number three, there is no evidence that they have made a decision to go forward with doing anything in space either. So what we found out our passage to launch a system into space that could theoretically do something that was hadn't happened yet, and my hope is it will not.
Thank you all.
I'll take one.
Thank you, Mr. President. Switching gears for a moment, have the Israelis presented a credible evacuation plan for the nearly 1.5 million displaced Palestinians sheltering in Rafah? And what would the consequences be for Israel if they move ahead with a full-scale ground invasion without clear measures to protect civilians there?
Well, first of all, I've had extensive conversations with the Prime Minister of Israel over the last several days, almost an hour each. And I've made the case, and I feel very strongly about it, that there has to be a temporary ceasefire to get the prisoners out, to get the hostages out. And that is underway. I'm still hopeful that that can be done. And in the meantime, I don't anticipate, I'm hoping that the Israelis will not make any massive land invasion in the meantime. So it's my expectation that's not going to happen. There has to be a ceasefire temporarily to get those hostages. By the way, we're in a situation where there are American hostages. American citizens are being held hostage. It's not just Israelis, it's American hostages as well. And, my hope and expectation is that we'll get this hostage deal, we'll bring the Americans home, and the deal is being negotiated now, and we're going to see where it takes us.
An FBI informant at the center of the impeachment inquiry into you has been indicted for allegedly lying. Your reaction to that, and should the inquiry be dropped?
That made him smile.
He is lying, and it should be dropped, and it's just been an outrageous effort from the beginning. We did. See you in Ohio.
All right, Dark B, we'll see you in Ohio. I don't know, what's he doing? He must have a campaign stop in Ohio.
Guys, tap the screen. Let's get to 125K. Please invite some Republicans. It's Friday. Would love to talk to some Republicans about any of those topics he just went over. He pretty much covered everything. And also, I absolutely agree with some comments that were being made. Biden sounds very coherent and very competent. I think it's very smart of his team. Like, it's time, I think, to take the kid gloves off. You know, for a long time, Biden hasn't necessarily been taking questions at the end of press conferences. You just saw him do it there and do it very competently and very well and cover a wide variety of topics. So hopefully, it's my hope going forward and going deeper into this election that that's what we'll see, is him freestyling more, engaging. I also like when he does one-on-one interviews, like when he did one with Nicole Wallace on Deadline White House. I hope to see more of that. But yeah, I think that was largely successful.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's improving his image as we go through. Because even, these are all questions he wasn't ready for. I think one of those questions was a Ducey question. He makes sure to take a Ducey question every time he's being questioned now. He's not afraid of the questions. Look, and in all fairness, Joe Biden should be confident in answering these questions. The evidence just keeps lining up on his side over and over and over again. What sucks is that it seems like every day for the last 2 weeks, there has been some crazy, awful news for America that is better for Joe Biden. So I understand his confidence, but he does a good job of not celebrating it. He does a good job of not rubbing it in people's face. He does a good job of acknowledging what the truth is and then taking that truth and saying, here's what we need to do. Here's the plan of action. I agree with you. I think compare that to any time Donald Trump is taking a question. Compare that to any time which is rare, generally speaking, his answer will have nothing to do with the question, and then he'll just ramble on about 50 other subjects, and we'll never get a real straight answer from him ever. Go to all right, did you see I added it? I'm assuming you saw it already, but not a great day for your friend, actually, Tristan Snell's where I got this. Not a terrific day for your favorite friend, Matt Gaetz.
Yeah.
Did you see that story?
Well, tell me about it.
Well, so there's a yeah, sorry, I thought you had read it. I've
read it, but I mean, what? Go ahead.
Yeah, there's
Let's
a story
talk about it.
from ABC News. Essentially, there's now somebody that's cooperating. She was not underage, but somebody who was being paid regularly by is it Greenberg? Is that his name? Am I getting his last name wrong? That sounds wrong. Is it Greenberg? Matt Gaetz' buddy?
I'm not sure who you're talking about.
Anyways, Matt Gaetz' buddy that was handling all the Venmo transactions. Anyways, we have text messages from Matt Gaetz essentially telling somebody hey, I'm going to fly you, come down to Florida. Also asked, weird, they were going to have a party in Florida, but asked
his
if
name's
she had
Joel Greenberg.
Joel Greenberg, thank you. Asked if she had a passport, which I'm sure we'll get more details on that. Republicans just abandoning him right and left. Kevin McCarthy accuses him of cheating on his wife. And many people on the inside are saying that they expect a vote to expel Matt Gaetz to come relatively soon now at this point.
Yeah, so this is just the article that's come out is about text messages that relate to a trip to the Florida Keys in 2017. So the alleged text messages describe then freshman. It's when he was a freshman in Congress. They're not identifying her, asking if she would fly on a private plane to the Florida Keys for a trip with Gaetz, 3 other women, and 1 other man. The quote, hey, blank, any interest in flying on a private plane to the Keys May 19th through 21? Gaetz allegedly wrote to the woman, who was older than 21 at the time. Gaetz then allegedly said that the trip would feature, quote, 2 guys, 4 girls, a very high quality adventurous group, end quote. And then she said, yeah, I'm in, replied the woman, according to the text. Gaetz allegedly replied, quote, fantastic, as is true with all the time you spend with me. It'll be fun and chill. You have a passport?
That's such a bizarre way to talk. Can you imagine, like,
so
you're going to go hang out with this guy? As is true, with all time you will spend with me, it will be fun and it will be chill. Like, that's the most robotic statement I've ever heard.
If accurate, like, these messages basically are marking the first known example of alleged direct private communication between the Florida congressman and a woman who his one-time close associate, Joel Greenberg, told investigators he had been paying to have sex with other men. Like, are we clear now what we're talking about?
Right.
Like, Lil Epstein is what we allegedly are talking about, according to documents and interviews with multiple sources. So if you remember we didn't get to on Monday, but I think I mentioned it Tuesday or Wednesday, was that it started with Gates rudely saying, like, oh, now that Ronna McDaniel's gone from the RNC, that McCarthy is so great at fundraising, he can be the RNC chair. And McCarthy's response, like, to a reporter was, hey, that's really interesting because I actually know what's going on in the ethics investigation and Matt Gaetz is going to end up in jail. And now we're seeing this is just ABC News has been doing better and better reporting. Like, I love the stuff coming out of ABC News. But yeah, this is like we're saying, a first example of communications between Gaetz and a woman who was paid essentially to perform acts, if you will, and services for him, essentially, and his friends. So this is the quote from a Gaetz rep. Quote, Gaetz has no knowledge of these activities by Mr. Greenberg and was not involved in them. Representative Gaetz has never paid for SEX. Representative Gaetz does not know anything about the woman you're referencing, though he takes thousands of selfies each year. And the reason you're like, what? Where does that even come from? It's like, so a photo of Gaetz and the woman has also been turned over to the committee. So that's how this is all tying together. According to sources briefed on the matter, the photo, which is dated timestamp, May 19, 2017, shows the woman smiling in a selfie next to Gaetz, who is wearing a shirt that reads, quote, if you think research is expensive, try disease. Like, say what now?
Well, I think that's probably why she was hanging out with Matt Gaetz, is she wanted to try disease.
Greenberg is a former Seminole, that's in Florida, county tax collector, reached a deal with federal investigators in May 2021, in which he pled guilty. So this man, Joel Greenberg's already pled guilty to multiple federal crimes, including trafficking of a minor and introducing her to other adult men who also had with her when she was underage. So he was a top witness in the Justice Department's years-long investigation into allegations that Gaetz had engaged in trafficking the same minor who was the victim, right? So that's how this is all, just making sure, it's a pretty in-depth article. So yeah, it's not as simple as, but yeah, that's what's coming together in this ethics investigation, which is now merging with a DOJ investigation. And now we see why McCarthy, and it becomes a lot clearer, right? Like, why Mark Wayne Mullen and everyone else in Congress is saying these things about Gaetz and about his future, possibly in prison.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that even if there doesn't happen to be any underage stuff with Gaetz, who knows, right? We don't have the evidence. We probably shouldn't make that claim that we know for sure. But, like, this is still trafficking. It's still a crime. And I think that one of the things that's been interesting about seeing the coverage from Matt Gaetz is that, like, he did commit a crime here. And the FBI chose to do nothing for it. And I think the FBI basically said, yeah, trafficking's a crime, but if we do this, we're going to have to do this a million other times. We're not going to prosecute on this. But if you pay somebody for those types of favors and you go and you bring them across state lines, that's trafficking. By definition, that's trafficking. That's a crime. So at the very least, if the FBI is not going to convict him of a crime, certainly it's an ethics violation. And that's why this is a little different. That's why it's not reopening necessarily the FBI case. Maybe we'll get new information and they'll open up a case. But as an ethics violation, this seems pretty cut and dry. Like, you can't pay people to cross state lines to provide favors for you.
Well, this is new. This is new evidence. So it will be what is allegedly going to happen because they have witnesses they're subpoenaing that the DOJ could not talk to or did not talk to. And then eventually, once the ethics investigation is done, as with Santos's, it will be referred to the DOJ.
Let me grab real quick a comment. Son of a... Sully sends this. I assume this is directed at me for joke writing classes. My jokes haven't been. Where's the sound of freedom nut job when you need him? Good question. User 867. Where is he? He's speaking at some Republican event, probably getting paid for it. So look, just another Republican pretending that he's for the people, pretending that he cares about human trafficking, and then just trafficking humans. Let's not forget that Donald Trump now is I think, when does that Stormy Daniels case start?
March 25th.
25th. Yeah, we got that coming up. All these people who claim all these virtues and who love to when you need them. Good question. User 867. Where is he? He's speaking at some Republican event, probably getting paid for it. So look, just another Republican pretending that he's for the people, pretending that he cares about human trafficking, and then just trafficking humans. Let's not forget that Donald Trump now is I think, when does that Stormy Daniels case start?
March 25th.
25th. Yeah, we got that coming up. All these people who claim all these virtues and who love to shove their Christianity down your throat. They all have sordid pasts. It's shocking, right? It's not to be. We didn't expect any of this from such sterling characters as Matt Gaetz. I can't believe it. My whole world is crumbling down. Anything else we need to cover on that? Oh yeah, now here's Matt Gaetz, because Matt Gaetz is an idiot. Did you see his tweet, his interview on Newsmax when they were talking about the George Santos seat?
I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
Well, Matt Gaetz is just Charlie Kirk now, and he said, after the loss, he said, it turns out DEI isn't a real good strategy for Republican candidate recruitment. And I thought that was really honest. It's true. If you are a woman or a minority running as a Republican, it is not the best strategy for Republicans to run you, because there's Republicans who don't want to vote for you because you are either a woman or a minority. It was a good point by Matt Gaetz, but they're just openly saying it now. They're like, hey, we just need white guys, otherwise we can't win.
Yeah, that's very disturbing. I did not see that clip, but it's disturbing and upsetting on every level as a woman. Yeah, so let me think. What do we want? Do we want to review anything from... Let's just go back. Let's do this. Let's go to Clay Higgins really quick. I'm going to play a clip. This is...
I love Clay Higgins' time. It's my favorite time of every show.
I can say that I do support a respectful inquiry from the Speaker's office, and I expect that to happen. And if it does not happen, then we'll take the next step. But Speaker Johnson is a very conscientious man, a good man, and he knows when his office has to perform when something like this happens. It's extraordinary, but it requires fast, responsive action.
Yeah, and what he's talking about there, and this kind of goes the reason I want to talk about this now, it goes back to what we were listening to Biden talk about. They are demanding that Mike Turner be investigated, be referred for an ethics investigation, because he's the head of the Powerful Intelligence Committee, and he released that information about, you heard Biden say, number one, there's no nuclear threat to Americans, because what they're talking about doing is disrupting satellites in space with nuclear explosions in space, not that would be detonated on Earth. But that's what they're saying. The Republicans, this is going to come as a shock, the Freedom Caucus are demanding, they want Mike Turner thrown off. He's the head of the committee. They want him thrown off the committee. They want him investigated. Why? Because he said something true? that pointed to maybe possibly, oh, why aren't we bringing this bill for aid to Ukraine to the floor? There's a big reason we need to. And just for saying that out loud, just for saying what Mike Turner said, now they want him gone. And they are subtly threatening, if you hear Clay Higgins, what he's saying is like, Mike Johnson better do what we say. And oh my gosh, I wonder if I have the thread because it's so good. I'll look for the thread. But it's so interesting because they're going to oust. Like, they are so close to ousting Mike Johnson. And so what Clay Higgins is basically implying is like, oh, Mike Johnson needs to do something about Turner, because otherwise he's next. People are very unhappy with Mike Johnson right now.
What are you going to do? Like, it's just such a miscalculation of their popularity, of their idea. Like, the reason they keep losing speakers and have to get rid of speakers is because their ideas aren't popular.
It's like echo. Okay. Did you mean?
I unplugged my mic because it's been poppy. Is it bad?
I don't know what to describe, like what's happening. It's like an echo or something, maybe. But it's
mic problems today. Let me try and plug it back in.
Yeah. How do you guys describe it? Yeah, it's like echoing or something. It doesn't. Yeah. Okay. It's not just me. So you guys do hear that. Okay. I just want to make sure because if it's just me, all
right, I'll go back to the mic. I just keep getting messages that I'm popping. I don't know if it's popping on your end, but anyways, Republicans don't really have a choice on who they're going to change out here because they have to bring in another MAGA Republican who's going to do MAGA Republican things and get nothing done. And then they're going to be upset about that too. And then that MAGA Republican is going to get pressured to actually do something like his job. And then when he does something to his job, and I say he because let's be honest, it will be he. As soon as he does his job, then Republicans are going to try and shut him down again. It's a massive miscalculation of how popular their ideas are. They're the minority, and bringing in a new speaker is not going to change the fact that your opinions are minority for a reason. People aren't choosing to not vote for things because they don't like Mike Johnson or Kevin McCarthy. It's because your ideas are bad. And because they're directly from Donald Trump.
Okay, so I found it. So this is all the tea. Like, one of my favorite, if you want to follow someone that knows literally the most informed person on Capitol Hill, is a man named Jake Sherman. He owns Punchbowl News. And so he said, in all the time I've been covering Congress and written about the Republican leadership, I've never had more people come to me in the leadership and say that we were spot on in what we've written. Patience is running very thin with Johnson. Has been the overwhelming message I've gotten. So let me read to you now what the list of things that he's saying is going on. The disaster that is House Republican leadership. Just this week, Speaker Johnson has, and I touched on this, how he's basically failing, like he can't even pass rules. Seen Democrats win a special election in New York, narrowing the already minuscule GOP majority to 2 votes. Lost a sixth. Nobody loses rule votes on the House floor, a measure that would have allowed an increase in the state and local tax deduction when 18 Republicans bucked their own leadership and voted no. This Republican majority has lost more rule votes than any other majority in 5 decades, a stunning sign of weakness. Abruptly pulled a bill to overhaul FISA due to Republican infighting. The GOP leadership said the House would vote on the bill before locking down the votes, despite some senior Republicans raising internal objections. This is the second time now Johnson had to pull a FISA bill this Congress. Abruptly pulled. I just got done. Seen another committee chair announce his resignation. Like, Mark Green is an extremely young, he's 59 for Congress, just got the gavel to head up the Homeland Security chair, and he literally quit and said, nobody wants to work together. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
There's no reason to be here.
It would be incredibly frustrating to be one of the people who went there to do their job and then be in this Congress. That makes sense to me. It's
he's leaving. So he's been in Congress 6 years. He's 59, the 4th committee chair to retire, just led the impeachment of DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. The 4th chair The Republican Party is leaving in droves. Decided against putting a bill on the floor to provide billions of dollars in aid to Israel without offsets. Just a week ago, Johnson allowed a vote on Israel aid that he knew was going to fail. Which that's apparently he didn't even think that bill would pass and still put it on the floor. Provided absolutely no insight to rank and file lawmakers on how he'll handle Senate's bipartisan $95 billion foreign aid package. Johnson said the bill isn't a priority because the federal government is shut down in a few weeks. So basically, they're taking 2 weeks off. They have no idea what they're going to do. When they get back, they have 2 CR deadlines. The government's going to shut down within like 3 or 4 days of them coming back, and then again a week later. It's a literal crisis what is going on. He is completely incapable of leading.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, like, during this vacation, what all the Republicans come up with at their Klan retreat, and see if they have an idea coming back of how to fund the government. But, like, are you guys tired of winning yet? Are you tired of winning yet, Republicans? Did you get tired? You get tired of winning all these elections, not being able to pass anything in the House. You got Marjorie Taylor Greene now as like a legitimate figurehead in your party. Is this what you guys had in mind when you voted for Trump? A one-term president who lost to Joe Biden, and then you just have Marjorie Taylor Greene and Mike Johnson up there just not doing anything to help you? This is what you guys wanted, right? Somebody defend that. Somebody come up and tell me about, yeah, Trump won. That's probably David, but like, it's time to tear down the government. Like, let's talk about it. If somebody's going to tear down the government, it sure as shit isn't going to be Republicans. They can't do anything. They can't pass a goddamn thing. Why? If you think it's time to do anything, why are you relying on Republicans? They're not going to get anything done. They're just going to sit around and do whatever Trump says, which Trump doesn't want to do. He doesn't want to tear down the government. He needs the government. He needs that protection from the government to try and get him out of his legal troubles. He needs this campaign to go on so he can continue to pay for his legal bills. Like, the whole party has just caved, and it's just a funnel of money that goes to Donald Trump. That's all. Every one of you are just part of this system. Everybody in Congress, everybody who still supports him. All you are is a mechanism for him to get more money. That's it. That's all you're doing. When you're running interference here, when you're talking about how great Donald Trump is and that you want to vote for him in 2024, just like all you're doing is voting for just money to go to him. That's it. Just money. That is David. Trump one is David, but he apparently only 26 followers. I heard a rumor that David.
Well, why don't we unblock him on one of his other accounts?
I don't know if he has those accounts. My understanding is, and I don't know, but I've been told that he's been banned on almost every account. I don't know about that. All right. Next story, or anything else you want to add on that?
No, we can move on.
Okay. Let's go to...
Well, I can do it.
You got it?
So I want to play just a clip that I think is important really quick. This is, again, Karen Agnifilo, and she's talking about, she was live streaming for Midas Touch when Fani Willis was testifying yesterday afternoon, and I forgot to make a TikTok about this, but I think it's important to play.
Just saw Fani Willis essentially call herself to the stand. She stormed right in there and said, "I'm getting up there on the stand. I have so much respect for this woman. I cannot wait to see what she's going to do. And she's going to completely make mincemeat out of Donald Trump and those defendants." I mean, this is just absolutely incredible what we're watching here in real time. This entire hearing, first of all, is salacious, it's irrelevant, it's personal, it does not focus on the law. The law here is there a conflict of interest that would in some way prevent Fani Willis from prosecuting the 18 defendants for RICO and trying to steal this election? And nobody has talked about a conflict. Nobody has talked about anything that remotely approaches a conflict. It's all about the salacious, disgusting details of a personal relationship that belongs nowhere in a courtroom, nowhere on television. I am just appalled. And watching these white lawyers, all of them, and the white judge basically do a public verbal lynching of Mr. Wade and Miss Willis is just pathetic, and it's a complete show and appalling. And we should call it out for what it is, because it's appalling. It's none of anyone's business. And thank God, Bonnie Willis got up there and just said, put me on. This is ridiculous. I will tell you exactly what happened and what didn't happen. I love that she's real. I love that she's absolutely a street fighter. That's how I've always characterized myself. The way she's like, talking about all the different things, having cash and everything that she talks about. But I just think she's handling this beautifully. Are you just?
Again, for who's asking the comments, that's Karen Agnifilo. She's was live streaming the trial of Fani's testimony yesterday for Midas Touch. She's great. But yeah, the large point is, again, Fani's not on trial. She was being treated as a hostile witness. She probably didn't even have to testify if she didn't want to. She waived that privilege, said, I want to tell you my truth, spoke the truth very clearly. And as of now, we haven't seen contradictory testimony come up, right? So.
Right. And I think just the way that she framed out is so accurate. And we saw it this morning, just in the dichotomy between how they questioned Fani Willis, her father, versus the former governor. That was simply a circle jerk. There was no combativeness there. They're like, oh, you're my best friend. And then with Fani Willis, it was attack after attack after attack. What's the female attorney's name? From the prosecution, what's her name again?
Ashley Merchant.
Yeah, I think she's been fine. I don't really have I understand what we're doing here, and I agree with the sentiment that it's disgusting. It doesn't need to happen. But I actually think she's done a pretty good job of not trying to harass, I guess. That's a low bar, but the fact that she's the only one.
Well, I mean, Fani said that she lied, very clearly. Fani corrected her testimony. It's the problem with her. Yeah, it depends on how you look at it, because your job is to present the most vigorous, right, the most aggressive testimony for your client. That woman, Ashley Merchant, her client is Michael Roman, the one who brought this whole thing. So that's why she's kind of the focus of the evidentiary hearing. But right. Yeah, I mean, essentially, all of this is a whole lot of disrespect. And I think it is very much true. Fani Willis is not accused of a crime. There's no burden of proof here. But the question is just for the judge to listen and determine, is there a conflict? And we shall see. Because like we said, the judge seems like a good guy. And we'll see how it all unfolds. It was really funny. Laura Ingraham had what do you call those? A body language expert come on yesterday. And the body language expert was like, yeah, Fani Willis is super confident. Just saying the things, not the thing. I don't know what Laura Ingraham thought, a body language expert was going to say, or I was like, oh God, she probably paid this woman to say something crazy. But the lady's just yeah, this woman's confident. She knows what she's doing. She's telling her truth. Laura Ingram's so upset about it. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean, it's not hilarious. If you heard the narrative of Fox News, I was listening to Fox News, then I would switch to CNN, and then I would switch to MSNBC. It's just unbelievable, to listen to Fox News, because the opinion, it's just Hannity's first line was this is the worst day of Fani Willis's life. I haven't seen anybody say that this went not in her favor. Even if you're bitter and you want this to not go in her favor, nothing she did hurt her. And to think of nothing she has done in anywhere, no evidence that the other side has presented has shown a conflict of why she couldn't try this case. But regardless of, even if Fani was kicked off this case, the case will go forward against Donald Trump. But right, it could beat the timeline. He's just trying to delay it so he can be president, because Fani Willis is elected. If she is ousted, the whole office, she staffs the district attorney's office, right? Those are all her people. So if she was taken off the case, everyone goes with her and they have to start from scratch. And they haven't even, still to this day, I think his name is Burt Jones, the deputy, there's someone else who needs to be tried. They still haven't even assigned a prosecutor to that case. So it will essentially, if she did get kicked off the case, would just help with Trump's delays.
Yes, CBS News said this morning it was a good day for Trump. All right, CBS News. I'd like to hear about that. A couple of comments to read. That Boot sent a donation for I love Felice. Could listen to her all day. Jay, you're okay. That's not bad. That's better than terrible. And then this is F. Mary on a live MTG Bobo and Elise Stefanik.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
I actually think this one's easy.
I guess I'm going to have sex with Bobert.
Yeah, same. And I think MTG's
and I guess I'm going to marry
right?
Elise Stefanik because, look, I don't want to marry Elise Stefanik.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Actually, you know what? Maybe it's not. Maybe Elise Stefanik is so disingenuous. I don't know, actually, because I think that Elise Stefanik is doing like an impression of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Elise Stefanik did not used to be this way. She was, if I could say who she emulated and really reminded me of, it would be Liz Cheney. Like, that's who Elise Stefanik used to behave like. That's like her belief system was very Liz Cheney-esque, if you will. And now she saw, oh, that's working for Margarine, and then she became Margarine. So I don't like I like originals. What? Like my one good nice thing I'll say about Trump is like he's an original, like I don't like seeing people do impressions of originals. So maybe I actually have more respect for Margarine than I do for Elise Stefanik.
That's a low fucking bar, but yeah, I don't know. That's a hard one. I think I'm the same. Bobo's getting it. The thing is, I feel like I could marry Bobo, and just like she would just. I just feel like she would listen. I feel like because she's gonna lose her race, she's gonna lose that whole public profile, and I don't know. It's a difficult one. I think I'm gonna stick with it. Marrying Stefanik, Marge has got to go, and Bobo's getting it.
Oh, yeah, that's just tough all around. It's hard. This will be good because I have all these clips of the trial, like Fani's testimony yesterday. But Katie Fang, who, if you don't watch Katie Fang's show on MSNBC on Saturday mornings, it's really good. I love it. She's a legal eagle. She's a legal analyst. She's covering the Fani Willis trial. And so she did like her 3 favorite moments for a minute. And I think it's like a good summary of yesterday. Oopsies, I clicked.
Explosive testimony today in the Fulton County Courthouse. Now, here are the top 3 moments.
You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
This testimony was important. She had to remind everybody in that courtroom, including the judge. It's really the people that tried to steal this election in 2020 that need to be held accountable.
Mr. Wade is used to women that, as he told me one time, the only thing a woman can do for him is make him a sandwich. We would have brutal arguments about the fact that I am your equal. I don't need anything from a man. A man is not a plan. A man is a companion. And so there was tension always in our relationship, which is why I would give him his money back. I don't need anybody to foot my bills.
One of the most critical issues in this hearing, whether or not Fani Willis received some type of personal financial benefit from her then boyfriend, Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. But as you heard, she made it clear she is his equal and she did not need him to give her money. In fact, she also made it clear that she paid her own way.
There's nothing secret or salacious about having a private life.
This testimony needed to be said. The idea that there was some type of secret clandestine relationship between Fani Willis and Nathan Wade was clearly refuted by both of them under oath. And this is what's happening in this hearing. There's an attack on the personal, intimate lives of 2 people, and that has nothing to do with the facts of this case.
Well said, Katie. And I think this reminded me of a couple of things I do want to recap from yesterday. Like what we learned was, right, when we talk about personal relationship, for all intents and purposes, they had a very close, like, emotional friendship because Mr. Wade came down, was battling cancer.
Yeah.
That's what was going on. That's why the one trip where they didn't split, she paid for all of it for him because it was his 50. He had made it to 50 alive. And she had
something like that. Like, I'm so
and
glad
she had
that he's
taken
still here.
and she had taken him there. And they were trying to discredit her and ask her all these weird, salacious questions. Kind of the point was implying, like, when did the relationship, or like, was it physical? And she said to them, like, I'm not going to emasculate an African-American man up on the stand, but like, there were, referring to his cancer diagnosis, like, it wasn't the relationship. They want to make this salacious and disgusting. This is a man who was battling cancer, who she was supporting through it. We learned that she, like her father testified to this morning, which was almost brought tears to my eyes, they were spray painting the N-word on her house. They were spray painting the B-word on her house. She couldn't go back to her house. She was moving around. She didn't want to use credit or debit cards a lot because she didn't want to be tracked in any way. Like, what has come out of this, in a way, has really backfired for people like Michael Roman, or people like the woman who's on trial for what, is part of the RICO investigation for what she did to Shay Moss and her mother. It's because these people's lives have been turned upside down. Fani can't live a normal life. She has to drive 5 hours to go have lunch somewhere so she can be a normal person. Her security detail told her she's not allowed out in Atlanta without a security detail. Like, what we really got to see, like, it's like she's a trap, like a rat in a maze, just trying to survive.
And then the few times that she escaped, the few times she went out and actually went on a vacation, now it's like, oh, now we're gonna try and bring you down for that. Despite the fact, like, one thing that I think is I wish maybe her attorneys would address more, and they probably will in closing arguments. I assume this is not lost on them, but there are plenty of transactions that those accusing her can track. They know that there's transactions from the birthday. They know there's transactions from the Napa trip. There are transactions on a credit card that they can track that could show that Fani Willis was paying for things while she was on vacation with him, right? So there is proof that she paid for things as well. And they're trying to hang it up on, oh, well, we can't account for this cash, so now you can't prosecute Donald Trump. It's such a silly case, and I appreciate, again, this judge for at least appearing to be fair. I think when his ruling comes down, there will be no accusation of bias, which he's done a remarkable job with. But it's the silliest case, and it's literally just meant to delay. It doesn't change a single solitary fact of this case. It doesn't change the scathing indictment. It doesn't change the fact that, let's remember, 3 people so far have pled guilty to being part of these RICO crimes. We know for sure they were fake electors. The actual facts of this case are pretty fucking cut and dry, and Donald Trump is just doing everything he can to delay, and this is just grasping at straws and grasping at bias. Like, the only reason this works is because Fani Willis is Fani Willis, right? If this was Greg Smith, probably not on trial right now. If Greg Smith,
she's not on trial. We didn't.
Well, yeah, whatever.
Remembering that.
What do we call it?
And there's, I was going to say, there's no closing arguments. This is an evidentiary hearing. The judge himself is just hearing whatever evidence, because this was a lot of smoke and mirrors. Like, right, what I said, like, I realized soon after testimony got underway yesterday that why did I even think it was going to be anything less, but they made it seem, right, a lot of things, like that he had lied in his own divorce proceeding, that the math wasn't mathing, that they had all of this unequivocal proof. And then when you actually started hearing what the testimony was, it didn't turn out that way. And so, yeah, it's a lot of nothing. But she's not on trial. That is what's most important. And to have now, like yesterday, it was like Karen said at Agnifilo, it was a courtroom of white people essentially hostile towards 2 African-American witnesses who are not on trial.
3, well, yeah. I don't know if you saw this truth from Mr. Trump this morning. He's now trying to appeal to Greg Abbott. He said they're talking about the Georgia Fani scandal all over the world. Okay. In fact, they are talking about it. That's true, but I don't think the sentiment is that this is a scandal. In fact, by far, it is trending number one. That also wasn't true. I can't believe the Georgia state judiciary or the governor can be happy about this humiliating embarrassment. It was a fake case from the start, and now everybody sees it for what it is, a major league scandal. The legal pundits, experts, and scholars are all screaming that this witch hunt, which has hurt so many fine people and patriots, should be immediately terminated and permanently erased from everyone's memory. Let's reread that again. Everybody, all the legal pundits, experts, and scholars are screaming that this witch hunt, which has hurt so many fine people and patriots, should be immediately terminated and also permanently erased from everybody's memory. Are we at Hogwarts now? Are we doing spells? Is this Men in Black?
He would absolutely love for everyone to disregard the fact that he tried to steal an election. And that's who's on trial. The 18 defendants in this case for trying to tamper with Georgia's election. And those are the people that need to be held accountable. And all of this is absolutely a distraction. Like yesterday during the, he wrote, Fani never paid cash. She got free trips and other things from her lover with the exorbitant amounts of money she authorized to be paid to him. A giant scam. Witch hunt. None of that is true. He desperately wants people to focus on the fact that adults had a consensual relationship.
It's ironic for a person to say that they got lots of money from their lover and that should just... while he's on trial for paying a lover $150,000 out of campaign funds and then hiding it and lying about it. He's actually on trial with evidence for exactly what he's accusing her without evidence of doing. But even if she had done that, are we going to not compare $150,000 to this maybe added up to $4,000 or $5,000? Looking at the trips they took, looking at all the money, not even 4 or 5, right? Close to $3,000 ish is what she would have got in benefits over that time prior to the investigation starting. Okay.
Well, I mean, you're saying if she had done it, because I think it's been made pretty, it's clear.
Well, I'm just saying the dollar amount that he paid for her without the cash reimbursement. If you took away the stuff that she's not going to be able to prove that she paid back, which is okay, $2,000 or $3,000. That's real. That is a major league scandal and a disgrace to Georgia. Got it. I mean, how are you guys still taking this guy seriously? Stop it. This is crazy. Nobody fucking talks like this. Nobody speaks like this. Nobody tweets like this except for crazy people. And you guys only don't think he's crazy because you're already bought in. If this was your uncle, you'd be like, all right, uncle, let's tone it down.
I have a good example of hypocrisy. I don't know how well you guys know what you guys know about Jesse Waters, but he comes from a very famous family, very wealthy family in New York. A lot of them actually are liberal politicians and people involved in politics and media. But he had the nerve to accuse, first of all, again, I just want to remind everyone of the facts, because everybody on the right loves to discuss things and have no idea of the facts. But what we learned from testimony yesterday was that in 2015, Nathan Wade's marriage was irretrievably broken, right? And it wasn't because of him, right? The rumor was that he had an affair. Well, what we found out from his testimony was that his wife in 2015 had an affair, but because they wanted to wait until their youngest daughter was out of the house, they stayed together until they dropped her off at college and then filed for divorce. But his marriage was irretrievably broken in 2015. He did not have an affair. Now listen to Jesse Waters try to imply the exact opposite. But what I want you to know about Jesse Waters before you hear this, and what Judge Janine is like, pipe down, Jesse, you have no business. They're like, Jesse, do you know who you are? Stop talking. This is so hypocritical. Yeah. He basically, while working at Fox, had an affair on his wife, who was pregnant at the time. This is who we're talking about, okay? So not only is he lying on Fani, but He's the world's largest hypocrite.
You're not allowed to hire the person you're having sex with and then not disclose it and then pay him a bunch of money, and then he takes you on vacation and you claim you gave him cash? What about office romance? What about Jesse? You don't want to go there. You have no office romance.
That's the third round.
Let
Stop
that
on
go.
your head.
I don't think we need families in this country. We need child.
You know,
I'm not going to let you get in any trouble.
I
say one more thing, though, real quickly. The fastness is up next because Jesse doesn't need to talk.
Literally every single person on the 5 was like, Jesse, that's what you did. Like their faces were like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like you're telling the story of your life, Jesse. Like none of that stuff he said was true, except if you're referring to what he did at Fox. And it's very ironic. All these people project their own sins onto other people.
Yeah, and again, Jesse Waters is not a serious person. Jesse Waters is just saying shit.
Oh, he was he was saying that, like, he knew that people were gonna, like, he knew what people were talking about. That, like, they were calling him a hypocrite.
What I'm saying, he's just not like a serious commentator. Jesse Waters is just like trying to feel the room and say whatever he thinks the room wants to hear. Sue just wants to hear us say again, a man is not a plan. A man is a companion.
Preach. Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Good for Jesse Waters. Good for old Jesse Waters. We never played it, but if you guys, and we won't play it today, but if you guys want to see something fun, if you haven't seen it, there's a video. Jesse Waters stupidly brings his mom onto the show. And his mom just tells him he's a conspiracy theorist and to stop lying so he doesn't get in trouble, like live on the air. His own family doesn't like him very much.
It's the day he took over for Tucker officially. His mom called into the show. Yeah. So also on Hannity, which I said Hannity was out of his mind, just delusional. Do you think he acknowledged and backtracked and retracted all of his statements?
Yeah,
his
100%.
43 interviews with Comer. No mention of that. But
he didn't.
Today, if you
Wait a
don't
minute.
know,
Sean Hannity, he didn't correct his record?
No.
Get the fuck out of here. That's insane. I thought for sure I got a man of that caliber.
They are
that
not
sterling
big on
reputation.
accountability.
It's probably tonight. He's probably going to do it tonight.
Yeah, I'm sure he just forgot. But yeah, so I was watching Hannity to see if he would mention something about Smirnov and make a retraction. He did not. But what he did do was let Alina Habba on to cry and lie some more. Because today, if you don't know, we're all waiting for Judge Engoron's ruling. Like, Trump's financial existence is probably going to be devastated today. It's, upwards, like they say, of 370 million that's in play that could be possible damages. No one knows. It is up to the judge, not a jury. So here was Hannity had Alina Habba on to just basically, whine about the injustices Trump is suffering.
All in an election year. How convenient.
It's 100% what it is. And I got to tell you, what I saw today was a lot like Miss James in New York. It's a similar fact pattern. It's the similar arrogance that you're seeing come out of it because they know they have these judges in their pockets and they have Soros backing or whoever it is, the Reid Hoffmans of the Democratic Party backing this. This is not what the courts are supposed to be used for, Sean. And it's disgusting. It's disgraceful. I really want to say to any of the judges that are out there listening that have anything left in terms of looking at the cases, looking at facts, looking at law, make our profession proud. Because what I'm seeing is complete politicization of our legal system. It's not right. It's an election year. It's election interference. You shouldn't be tying up a candidate. And now we got Stormy Daniels. I mean, her lawyer went to jail. Michael Cohen just perjured himself, admitted to it on the stand. How much lower can we go? Read Pomerantz's book if you have any questions about it. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous and it has to stop, Sean. Honestly, the only way we're going to stop it is in 2024. I really believe that.
I don't think the president can get a fair hearing in New York. I certainly don't believe, I think he got 5% of the vote in D.C. I don't think he can get a fair trial there at all. He certainly was never going to get one out of Fulton County, Georgia. Maybe Florida, he has a fair shot. But that case never should have happened, especially in light of what we learned from the Robert Hur report about Joe Biden and his classified document scandal, especially what we know about Hillary Clinton. No reasonable prosecutor.
Like, just not one word of anything those people say are true. And it's so fascinating to me. Like, just his evidence is just what about? Okay, well, as we know, Trump wasn't charged for taking classified documents. He was charged for not giving them back, for obstruction. And that obstruction has nothing to do with Joe Biden. That's a separate case. So trying to just say Robert Hur's report is not a defense of Trump's crimes. Like, it's just a series of whatabouts with these people. Like, none of it makes any sense. Alina Habba is challenging judges to uphold their integrity. The woman that has no integrity, that is going into court lying, is on Hannity lying, crying, and making an appeal to the other people in the legal profession to have integrity. Like, is there anything funnier on earth?
I would just like to point out, and this should be pointed out every time this is brought up, but Sean Hannity's a fucking hack. Michael Cohen lied. But what he lied about was what he didn't do. Like, he claimed that he didn't do something, and what he claimed he didn't do was pay Stormy Daniels. And he got caught. He got caught because we have receipts, we have checks, we have emails, we have negotiations. Like, he was fucked. Basically what they did, he went out, he took out a loan, he paid Stormy Daniels, and then Trump would create these fake, or I guess they had these fake legal billable hours, I think is what it was, in order to pay him back. And they paid that back out of campaign funds. That's what he got caught lying about. He got caught lying about what he was doing for Donald Trump. And then that's why he went to jail, because he lied about the same thing Donald Trump is lying about. And let's please remember, they were co-defendants. Or co-conspirators, excuse me. Donald Trump was unindicted co-conspirator. That was his role in this, and he couldn't be indicted because Bill Barr said the sitting president can't be indicted. So this case could not have taken place until after he was out of office. Whether he was reelected or not, this case couldn't take place until then. And even then, we're in 2024 now. That's how long this has been kicked down the road. Their attorneys can't have it every way. They can't exhaust all their options to delay everything until an election year and then be like, these motherfuckers are doing this in an election year. Well, we tried to do it 2 years ago, 3 years ago. We've been trying, but you guys kicked the can down the road so much that here we are in election year, and now we're finally having these cases.
It's been actively reported. I mean, Steve Bannon, since I listen to Bannon's show, like, he actively admits it. Donald Trump has been running the longest 2024 presidential election campaign in history because it was an active plan to declare himself as a candidate, so then they could start claiming election interference with these charges. Like, that is literally their strategy, and it's ridiculous. And Habba mentioning, if you need to know anything about it, read Pomerantz's book. Well, I did read it. Pomerantz was mad because they didn't bring the case earlier, the case that he put together. That's what he was mad about, Habba. You obviously didn't read Mark Pomerantz's book. No. Like, of course you didn't. Every word you heard Alina Habba and Hannity saying is a lie. Literally every word. Like, don't pretend you're reading books now. Mark Pomerantz was mad because there's a lot larger case that kind of goes into the civil trial of how Trump's businesses were operating illegally in New York City. And that case, the original case that Pomerantz had put together, they really needed one witness. Another person who's lied, like to say Michael Cohen's lied. You know who that is? Alan Weisselberg, the CFO, Trump's CFO. And the second person that went to jail for Trump, right? Alan Weisselberg also went to jail and also currently is negotiating a perjury plea, right? Because he lied for Trump and still hasn't testified. And that's why Pomerantz's case fell apart, because they didn't think without Weisselberg that, they wanted a CFO to testify to the financial stuff.
100% agreed. And Judge Encaron, in his letters last week, Midas Touch covered this beautifully, but in his letters back and forth with Alina Hobbit last week, where he was like, hey, did Weisselberg lie on the stand? Do you know if this is true? And she's like, you don't get to, why are you worried about a New York Times article? He's like, I'm not. I need to know if the witness you presented lied and if you knew, because now you're in trouble too. I really like Encaron. I have to read something 3 times fast. So this is hard. Let me get a drink of water.
Guys, tap the screen. Let's get to 180K.
All right, here we go. 3 sweet switched Swiss witches watch 3 washed Swiss witch watch switches. Which sweet witch switched Swiss witch watches which watched Swiss witch watch switch.
Remember swatches?
No, what's a swatch?
What? They're like, Swiss timepieces are like famous, and swatches were like these really popular watches. They had all sorts of like bands and shapes, and you've never heard of a swatch.
No, okay, this is the first time I'm hearing of this. I wasn't,
yeah. There were stores like all over the world. It was like this craze.
A swatch?
Look up swatch.
I'm looking it up, yeah. Swatch watches. Oh, yeah, I remember those. I didn't realize that was Swatch. Yeah, and it was like kind of like
they were pretty fit. Like every mall had a Swatch watch store.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been.
Someone said you were a Mormon.
Look, my mom also.
They had swatches. Mormons were allowed swatches.
My mom was crazy about she had this idea.
Yeah, some were rubber. Yeah, they were like rubber. Yeah.
Yeah, she had this idea about anything that's popular. So when I want to say junior high, there was a while where corduroys, those thick corduroys were really those were in style. So my mom bought me corduroys, but the thin ones. And if whatever was in style, she would do something that's almost that. She would buy me something that was almost that. So there was no way I was going to get brand name anything ever. My whole the only brand name thing I ever had was my shoes and my cleats, my basketball shoes and my cleats. But my mom was very careful. She didn't want me to look worldly, so she would never let me be wear trendy stuff. So when I went to high school, I was all right, my mom gave me money to go shopping, and I just went to the thrift store. I wore nothing but sweatpants and polo shirts every day. Which is pretty cool. I'm still pretty cool.
We didn't have money, so I definitely, whatever I was looking like as a kid, it was not good. That's for sure.
I picture you as a kid though, running some sort of illicit empire in high school, having salesmen on the side. You didn't
by then I didn't. I got my own clothes by then. Okay. Yeah, you're right. I did run a shadow economy. I didn't rely after the age of 11. I did not rely on.
How'd you get your money?
I'm not going to tell you what
Will you tell me offline sometime? I promise not to bring it up. This is wonderful.
I'll tell you.
All right.
Sure. Okay, now I know what I forgot to do. This is going to be sickening, so I apologize in advance for the crap you're going to have to hear. So before the House GOP, the least successful Congress in history, the 118th Congress, took their 2-week vacation they are currently on right now. They were convening a hearing where I can't remember the exact name, but it's some BS. But it's where Margarine gets to scream about her belief that vaccines kill people. Okay, do you know what I'm saying? It's literally just one of these hearings. But they had this amazing doctor, I think his name's Dr. Marks, but if I'm wrong, don't, as a witness, right? And he was just schooling, just schooling people. But also the interesting part was his own passion. He was listing statistics. And we're all he's going to drop some knowledge on us. But also just get prepared, because Margarine does what she does best and became completely belligerent and disrespectful and awful. Yeah, it's
she's
really
such a grumpy Gus.
Yeah, she's out of control. But let's start with this is some new information. I think we'll all learn something here.
Marks, you said a moment ago that the vaccine booster alone saved hundreds of thousands of lives. How many lives have been saved by the COVID-19 vaccine generally?
It's estimated in the United States, about 3.2 million lives, and it's estimated that globally, COVID-19 vaccines have saved over 14 million lives, conservatively.
And we lost more than 1 million people to COVID-19.
That's correct, about 1.1 million. I kept the daily record of the number of people dying, which got up to about 3,300, about a World Trade Center disaster a day.
A World Trade Center disaster a day. Like, this man is sitting there tracking. Yeah, just tragic.
Deborah Birx, who was former President Trump's White House coronavirus response coordinator, stated that a sequence of missteps and mistakes made by the prior administration's pandemic response cost hundreds of thousands of American lives. So I take it one of the points you have to make is that the public health response of the federal government makes a huge difference in terms of health outcomes for the American people.
I would agree with that.
Whether it's measles or tuberculosis or COVID-19, would you agree that vaccines save lives in the aggregate?
I think that by definition, for us to approve or authorize a vaccine, there has to be overwhelming evidence that many more lives are saved than might be taken by a vaccine. In other words, the safety profile by definition has to be excellent.
Well, thank you for making so much sense, Dr. Marks. Okay, now I'm going to play one more clip like this, and this is...
Well, Marge is just going to repeat what he said. They're on the same page.
Well, the good thing about this committee is, like, Margarine is right before, because her name's Garcia, right? So they're right next to each other in the line. So, and
sorry, Marge.
This is one of they're on the same committees. They're on this COVID committee where Marge tries to, like, disprove the vaccine's efficacy. And then they're also on the Homeland Security Committee. So Robert Garcia has dedicated his time on these committees to blowing up Margarine's tweets and misinformation and stuff and making it clear, like, what she's done.
That's a fun job, I think. I think that's a fun role to have.
He's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Countless posts have spread misinformation, encouraged parents to refuse routine vaccinations for their children, which you just heard, by the way, and even compared our pandemic efforts responses to the Holocaust. I want to just actually read something which is in the public record. I'm not saying anything that's not in the public record. That a member of this committee actually said, the same person that is actually attacking vaccines, said that vaccinated employees get a vaccination logo, just like the Nazis forced Jewish people to wear a gold star. I want to read that again. Vaccinated employees get a vaccination logo, just like the Nazis forced Jewish people to wear a gold star. That is the level of insanity and attacks that we're having here.
So this is a tweet, right? So he has her tweet blown up, like, and she's sitting there and the camera's on her, like, this whole time.
Well, can I
actually debate?
When that's done, yeah, I'll play a clip. I need to pull it up anyway. So
the lives saved around vaccinations. Now, this same member has also held shadow public hearings promoting ideas that COVID is a weapon to target specific races and the vaccines, and I quote, cause turbo cancers. I want to read you this.
I just want to make
quote.
Sure, because now this doctor is going to get back involved. She's saying, yeah, and he's going to go into turbo cancer. This is one of this is part of, like, what she's saying. So, and it will be explained. So don't.
And it's again in the public record at a hearing. Have the COVID vaccines resulted in an increase in cancers, and are turbo cancers real? Now, Mr. Chairman, this is, in my opinion, just insanity. We know that's not the case. Dr. Marks, can you clarify once again for the American people, do the COVID vaccines cause turbo cancers?
I'm a oncologist that's board certified. I don't know what a turbo cancer is. It was a term that was used first in a paper in mouse experiments describing an inflammatory response. We have not detected any increase in cancers with the COVID-19 vaccines.
So imagine Now, so this doctor's getting more and more upset, right? And he's going
Yeah.
to start talking about the effects, but because she's spreading lies and hurting the American public as a result of it.
Before
And
you
he's
play,
going
is
to
it
call
po-
her out for that.
Is it possible that you get turbo cancers from ghost buses and he just doesn't know either of those two terms yet?
No.
It's possible.
And I thank you for correcting the record.
May I just add something here? I do need to apologize to the 1,000 or so parents of children who are under 4 years of age who have died of COVID-19 who were unvaccinated because there were deaths and are continuing to be deaths in children. And that is the reason why they need to get vaccinated. Thank you.
And I agree with
So now listen to what Marge's response is to that. Like, this is what I was going to play for you.
She'll explain it. She's going to explain it really well.
But this man is so, passionate about his work and stuff. And this is...
I'm not a doctor, but I have a PhD in recognizing bullshit when I hear it. I'd like to point out to everyone that we knew early on, as a matter of fact, everyone knew early on, that the people that were at risk of hospitalization and dying of COVID were those that were obese, had diabetes, were over the age of 65. And I'm not a...
So he's the doctor who's qualified. He's talking about statistics of deaths, which are indisputable. Children under the age of 4. That did die. Margarine doesn't get to rewrite history. He is apologizing to the parents of children under 4 who are no longer on this earth because of misinformation and disinformation that has been spread by people in the government. And that is her response. Like, I don't think this is funny. Like, we can joke about turbo cancer, like anything, but it's not ultimately funny. And that's the point that Dr. Marks is making, is like, you can say whatever you want, but like, he's been counting the unalivings of children under 4, while this is a joke to them.
It's just, she doesn't like the information that's being presented, and she's just like, oh, I don't like that information, so it's bullshit. Like, what she's telling you, I have a PhD in detecting bullshit, means that, like, I don't really give a fuck about evidence. Like, evidence doesn't matter to me. I just rely on my PhD.
But these are the people that talk about children.
Yeah,
they talk about, we got to save the children. They have never saved a child from anything.
Yeah, I want to point this out. When she compared the mark of the vaccine, or whatever she's even talking about, is she talking about the sticker that said I was vaccinated? Is that what she's talking about? When she says, like, the mark of the vaccine is similar to, like, concentration camp marks? I got vaccinated and boosted. I did not receive a tattoo. I did the first time receive a sticker. I assume that's what she's talking about. But she compares that to schmazzi's. And I just want to point out that on this same day, she gets very upset when people link what she says to schmazzi's. And here's this clip.
This is from yesterday?
Yeah.
Britain's Foreign Secretary David Cameron says that you should vote through funding for Ukraine. What do you say to that?
I think he tried to compare us to Hitler also. And if that's the kind of language he wants to use, I really have nothing to say to him.
Well, he likened you to an appeaser to Hitler in not voting through funding for Ukraine. Are you an appeaser for Putin?
I think that I really don't care what David Cameron has to say. I think that's rude name calling, and I don't appreciate that type of language. And David Cameron needs to worry about his own country, and frankly, he can kiss my ass.
Yeah. You bring up those words, you bring up the exact type of words that Marge uses, and it's, oh, I don't appreciate that kind of language and that kind of name calling. And by the way, fair assessment by David Cameron to say, like, yeah, you're appeasers. You're appeasers to somebody who's trying to attempt a genocide. Like, you're not different. For those that are siding with Russia, you're not different than the appeasers of the schmazzi's. You're no different whatsoever.
Guys, tap the screen. We're almost to 200K. Let's tap. Let's share the live. If you are a Republican in here and would like to talk about, I know we've covered a lot of issues, whatever's on your heart and mind, we are willing to talk about. Please share the live with your favorite or least favorite Republican, or just push the copy link button. That helps. Again, if you guys want to donate to us, here are Venmo and Cash App, and then tip jar is in Jay's profile as well. Send us a funny message, some F, Marry, Kill choices. whatever you want, and we will read it aloud.
Speaking of reading things aloud, we did get a donation from Travis, who I believe you're friends with. Travis says, for Felice, will you go to the cheese factory with me? Cheesecake Factory. Sorry, not Cheese Factory. Cheesecake Factory.
You know what the thing about the Cheesecake Factory is, Travis? I don't know if I do know who Travis is, but you know what scares me about the Cheesecake Factory? The menu is too long. Like, nobody wants that many decisions. Why is there a 45-page menu at the Cheesecake Factory? Like, we don't need that many choices.
I agree. Everybody's there for vanilla bean cheesecake anyways. Just order a vanilla bean cheesecake and then they can bring out whatever they want. Just have one menu item. It changes every day. We're all there for the vanilla bean cheesecake.
Okay, next, let's go. Let's just pivot back to what we were talking about with Alex Smirnov. You know, the guy, they built their whole impeachment sham hearings of Joe Biden based on that FD 1023 form that Margaret, was read out on in a skiff and then came out and told us all about. That now turns out he made up the whole thing and has been indicted for lying.
Whoopsies.
Okay, first of all, I found my compilation. This is just to refresh your memories. These are just clips of in the hearing. I'm just going to play a little bit of it. These are all based, and who they're talking about in these clips is Alex Smirnov.
In this FD 1023 document, the human source clarified that Burisma's CEO, the man in charge of Burisma, said he has many text messages and recordings that show he was coerced to make such payment to ensure Victor Shokin was fired. Matter of fact, there were 17 of them. Mr. Garland, it's clear Joe Biden wanted Shokin fired so he would stop looking into Burisma, where Hunter was on the board. Would you agree? All right, let's let the American people decide. Play the clip. Play the
claims. The mainstream media has largely ignored.
And so and that's the important one. And the point I wanted to make again is what you read in the indictment is that he never even talked to anyone in Ukraine during that period of time, right? Like he told stories after the fact as if he had had these conversations, and when it all has shaken out now. And what the indictment makes clear was no, he never had those conversations when Joe Biden was vice president.
Remember Merrick Garland? Merrick Garland's sitting there and just hearing. Merrick Garland responded many times like, there's no evidence to back up these claims. He said that over and over and over again, and Republicans just slammed him and said, oh, you're ignoring the evidence. The evidence is right in front of your face. Here's the testimony. We have the testimony. We have the claims. Investigate. Well, they did. Just so we're clear, they did investigate, and it turns out the claims were fucking bullshit, and now somebody's going to go to jail. That's what they did. Merrick Garland did exactly what the Republicans asked, and like all things that Republicans ask, it usually doesn't work how they plan, and then when it doesn't work out how they plan, they just they change the narrative, and now Merrick Garland is just hiding the evidence, right? That's what we're going to do now. It's still Merrick Garland's fault. Now is Bobulinski, is that our last hope for Republicans? Is that your last guy? You're hanging your hat on Bobulinski, the Trump donor? By the way, I also wanted to point out during the speech today that I did notice that Joe Biden's eyes were particularly round this morning. I just wanted to highlight that.
I'll look it up later, but yeah, like I said, Bobulinski gave a deposition that apparently the Democrats on the Oversight Committee completely ripped to shreds. But again, the transcript is not being released by James Comer. Imagine that. So the reason I wanted to play that clip, so last night, Jared Moskowitz was on Abby Phillips' show late night, and he was talking about James Comer. So that's what we're about to hear.
Congressman, simple question. Should Republicans end their impeachment inquiry in light of these charges?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Abby. Yeah, thoughts and prayers to James Comer and the fake, frivolous, faux Biden impeachment that they've been trying to run. It's been so successful. You haven't heard him talk about it for the last couple of weeks. They had to switch to Mayorkas because there's no evidence in Joe Biden. And now what do we find out? What we've known all along, that this 1023 form that they cried over for months and months was all a lie. It was all a lie. And the guy who made it up has been indicted. By the way,
joining me now.
It's not their first informant that was indicted. Let's not forget the Chinese foreign agent who was doing Iranian
/ arms dealer, Lebanese arms dealer. Does anyone remember? Like, just to be clear, this is not the first witness that Comer like trotted out that ended up not being who they said they were. There was an arms dealer / Chinese spy, if you remember, who also gave a deposition.
I have to pee real quick. Keep going.
No.
oil sales and selling arms to the Libyans was indicted
Libyans,
as well.
not
This
Lebanese.
makes two Comer informants on this fake Biden impeachment that had been indicted. So yeah, they should end it because it never should have began, Abby.
And now the best part, which I think I brought this up earlier, but the real question we need to ask ourselves, because this indictment came out and we still haven't heard anything, haven't heard retractions, except for Chuck Grassley saying, if I never brought up a fake 1023 form, then you guys would never have figured out this is all lies, so you're welcome. But the real question, and I think that this the best part of this interview, is Jared raising the question, when did Comer know about this? And why haven't, what did Comer know and when did he know it about this man being a complete fraud?
So do you believe that Comer had any reason to believe that this was all false and ignored it?
Oh, that's a great question, Abby. In fact, I'll ask it a different way. When did James Comer know this was false, and how long did he conceal that from the American people? I mean, are you telling me he just found out through the indictment, or has he known all along, or at least for a period of time, that this 1023 form was made up? Those are real questions we need to get to the bottom to. In addition to, Speaker Johnson ending this sham impeachment, he should be looking into that and whether maybe James Comer should even stay as chair of the oversight.
Do you have any evidence that he knew in advance that this was not a legit informant?
No, look, I don't have any evidence of that. But, Abby, you know what they like to do. Some people are saying perhaps, maybe it's the Bidens. I mean, I don't know what James knows or doesn't know, but he should tell the American people. When did he find out that this 1023 form was a lie? When did he find out that his informant was lying to the American people and they were still using that information? I'd like to know. I think James has to answer that to the American people.
When and continuing to use our tax dollars to have these hearings, continue to do that in lieu of the greatest emergency, they say, is the border. They wouldn't bring the border bill to the floor. Now they're on a 2-week vacation. If that indictment had never come out, or if it was sealed for some reason, do you think James Comer would have ever admitted that their entire case was built on a lie?
Do you think there's anything to, like, when you look at these impeachment hearings, when you look at basically every committee that Republicans have thrown together, there are outspoken people, the smartest people in the room are not running these committees. There's a part of me that thinks that people like Jim Jordan, people like Matt Gaetz, they know what this is, and they know that this is going to blow up in their face, and so they're trotting out Marjorie Taylor Greene and James Comer. Like, they're not willing to stand up there and be the face of this. The best people Republicans have to offer are refusing to stand up and be the face of this. I honestly believe that there's enough smart people in the GOP that know this is bullshit, but they don't care. Obviously they don't care, but they're like, I'm not going to tie my name to this. I'm not doing that. I mean, Jim Jordan, as gross as he is, he's effective. He's effective. Like, he always has 3 points. He repeats those 3 points over and over and over. That message gets out through Twitter, through TikTok. Like, he was effective during the Trump impeachments. Whether we agreed with him or not, he was good at it. And they're now just putting up like their C team. You got Mike Johnson's the speaker. Nobody with a brain is really willing to stand up here with the Republican Party and put their face with it.
That's fair. I don't disagree with that statement.
All right, what's next? Do you want to cover this DeSantis stuff? Switch subjects, or do you want to stay on this one?
Let's cover it.
Okay, so you put this up. I was reading it while we are going. Do you want to? What number was that? The Midas Touch story was 14.
There's more than.
I know, but I think 14 was the first one, right? Yeah.
Well, 15. That goes in reverse chronological order. I mean, it doesn't. Oh, yeah, I see what. 15. We can talk about 15 or 14. They're both related.
Okay, why don't you take these ones? I'm just catching up. I hadn't seen this for some reason.
Okay, yeah. So what's going on is basically DeSantis has finally admitted in Florida that the book ban is a bad thing. That because of his idiocy, he allowed a bunch of people who don't even have don't have children in schools, moms of liberty types, random people with too much time on their hands to dispute books. Whether or not books can be on shelves. And there's so many disputes now that there's no books for children to read. And he wants to walk back the book ban he once championed, essentially. He's backing down. Florida teachers in libraries face felony charges and up to 5 years in prison for carrying unauthorized books. This was his idea. It was largely all of these impractical laws that DeSantis used his supermajority in Florida to put into place is essentially they were ridiculous, and they were all they were for his election year, right? This was all with the hopes of pulling Trump's base out from under him. And now it's become untenable for him to govern in his state, and he wants to walk it back.
Yeah, this is not surprising to anybody who was against the legislation that they were just ramrodding through Congress in Florida. The complaint was always that they were overly vague and that they would lead to, in this case, it would lead to more book bans. It would lead to people who don't have children in schools being able to control what's in schools. It would allow people all over the country to essentially, and this includes white nationalists, which appears to be what happened. It just allowed them to ban books. I saw a permission slip the other day from somebody. It was from a school, I believe, in Florida, where some schools now you have to say you have to get permission if you're going to do the readout of the book. And
that's the other article.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, let's do that one.
That's in. We're not done with this. Wait. So as relates to the book ban, so just to go back to with DeSantis. So quote, with objecting, if you go to a school board meeting objecting, if you have a kid in school, okay? But if you're somebody who doesn't have a kid in school and you're going to object to 100 books, no, I don't think that's appropriate. So I think the legislature is interested in limiting what the number of challenges you can do and maybe making it be contingent on whether you actually have kids in school or not. We just want to make sure we're not trying to incentivize frivolous objections or any type of games being played, end quote. And this guy, this tweet I'm looking at, it's DeSantis acts shocked that his vague and punitive censorship laws have resulted in exactly the type of chaos and excessive book banning in Florida public schools that we all predicted would happen. The GOP knows they went too far. Mr. Never Back Down is again backing down.
always back down, Ron DeSantis. Make Florida not Florida again. That should be his new slogan there. All right.
He literally created chaos, threatened to jail librarians. I mean, he's ruined the educational experience of children in the entire state of Florida. And I don't think it really can't be it really can't be said enough, the damage that this man has done to children in Florida and continues to do. And then now casually just to say, oh, I guess I made a mistake because there's no books left for the children to read. I feel so sorry for all the people who can't relocate because moving is a privilege and it's expensive to relocate to another state and are trapped in a state where they can't afford insurance for their homes, where their children don't have books in libraries, where their children aren't allowed to self-actualize and be who they are, where little girls' periods are being tracked to make sure that women can't make decisions about their health care. It's not something to just brush over. What he's done is unforgivable.
Yeah, and he did it too because he just thought it was going to be popular. This was all attempts for him to become president. And he thought that's what was going to happen. He didn't care about... He was warned about this by multiple people. He was warned the disaster this would cause. And now he's coming back and he's acting shocked. oh, you mean when I write legislation that's overly broad and allows everybody access, like it got fucked up? That's the thing about Ron DeSantis that has always been true. He's not that smart. He consistently thinks that he's ahead of the curve. He consistently thinks that his ideas are popular. He consistently thinks his ideas work, and they don't. Like he just was pushing all of this hatred on children, almost exclusively children, to try and run for president, and then couldn't figure out why he wasn't popular. Why he went from like the person that was going to beat Donald Trump to like bowing out embarrassingly after not being able to beat Nikki Haley.
And losing $150 million. He spent $150 million on a few months campaign. Like, it's unbelievable what that man has done.
That paid for a lot of books.
And then to segue into like the other article that is super related, but it's just another example of the fascist state that Florida has become and what's going on there. But a Florida elementary school is receiving backlash, or just been in the news. They're requiring students to obtain parental permission to attend a reading of a book by a Black author. In the latest instance of racist culture in Florida schools created under Ron DeSantis. So this is at a school called Coral Way, K through 8 in Miami, specifically called out a letter that was sent home, alerting them to an upcoming book reading event, which stated, students will participate and listen to a book written by an African American, end quote. One parent, Chuck Walter, posted a photo of the slip on X, writing, I had to give permission for this or else my child would not participate. And this is the thing, like, imagine the position that teachers are truly in here. Because
let's be clear, too, on that document, that is the only description of what's happening. Police isn't choosing a sentence that says like students, like that's literally the whole thing. It doesn't say what the book is about. It doesn't say the name of the book. It literally only says students will participate and listen to a book written by an African American. That's the whole thing. We're not cherry picking here. That's maybe the most shocking part, is that's the only explanation given for why you need permission here.
And that's under the guise of using the words, right, CRT, which we know is not being taught in elementary school or in high school. And that's why teachers now have to do this. Because at any moment they could be fired or sued, right? Because they've been told whatever, they've been changing curriculum to say that, slavery, well, African Americans were able to learn trades, or we don't want the white children to feel bad, so we're not going to teach the history of the transatlantic slave trade. And so now teachers are at the point where parents have so much power that they have to ask permission, literally in this way, to, I'm assuming, cover their school from lawsuits, from whatever, from being fired. I'm sure the principal is telling them at this point, because I've thought about this as a teacher. How would I deal with this? And I think the answer is, you just send permission slips home for everything at this point. Like, you can no longer do anything without letting people know, oh, this is gonna happen. And this is the backlash of it. Ron DeSantis, in hopes of pulling the far right out from under Donald Trump, has created an environment of discrimination.
Yeah, which is to the, who loves this? Moms for Liberty. They're like, finally, it's working. This is a donation from Heather. Heather says FMK, which is F Mary Unalive. Bush Jr., Steve Bannon, and Tucker Carlson. This is from Labish. So Bush Jr., Steve Bannon, and Tucker Carlson. I know you're marrying Steve Bannon. That's your
George
guy.
W. Bush. Yeah. Is that who we're talking about? What is the other one? Tucker?
Bannon and Tucker.
Oh, I'd married George W. and I'd have sex with Tucker and off the other one.
Well, what podcast are you gonna listen to if Steve Bannon's not around? Where will you get your source of joy?
I don't know what you mean, but that's definitely what will happen.
Yeah, I think I would do the same. I think I'd do the same, but only the difference between Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson is I think Steve Bannon is more destructive, which is crazy to say considering Tucker Carlson is doing Russian propaganda right now. But I think that would be my That'd be my vote. And look, GW and I would get along. I think we'd get along great. We could go play golf.
Yeah, and just quickly back to the article we're talking about. It just says, both schools have stated they're attempting to remain compliant with DeSantis's parental rights in education. That's the Don't Say Gay, Keep Woke Out of Schools Act. So, and because that act was so broad and ambiguous, now we're getting permission slips for books written by African Americans. Where's the ACLU when you need them?
I don't want to speak for you. Big Boat thinks that you're afraid, and of Tucker. Are you afraid of Tucker Carlson? Just out of curiosity.
No, I'm not.
Gotcha. I'm also not afraid of Tucker Carlson. Thanks for coming by, Big Boat.
Why don't you come up here and talk to us about it?
All right,
guys, tap the screen. Let's get to 225K. Almost there.
Should we go to this NBC article, number 5?
Go
or
ahead.
are there other? What do we have? We have 40 more minutes left. Is there stuff you want to make sure we got to? I know. You've got a trillion clips.
No. I think we've covered. I just like I said, I have a lot of clips of individual things that happened at the Fani Willis trial. That's why I did the summary of Katie Fang. I don't need to play them individually.
Okay.
I just put them in there in case you wanted to reference them.
Okay. And Jen, will you let us know if the trial goes? If they start talking? I know they were going to reconvene for the afternoon, so we might be getting close. So at any time we may jump back to that trial. But let's go to this article, number 5. This was from NBC News. Trump world considers having the former president deliver the official GOP State of the Union response. Allies and allies close to former President Trump have discussed the former president giving the official Republican response to President Joe Biden's March 7th State of the Union. 2 of the sources said that Trump himself has discussed it, but both said he is leaning against the high-profile gig. Isn't it usually the Speaker of the House? Isn't that usually who gives the response?
Never.
Or the Senate leader?
It's Sarah Huckabee Sanders did it last time. It's just like, it's kind of an award for like a prominent person in the GOP. It doesn't have to be anyone specifically.
I forgot about Huckabee Sanders, the nightmare. Like, picked
awful.
the most boring speaker you possibly could get to give the response.
Well, it was interesting because, it's interesting seeing her be attacked from both sides, right? Like the misogyny that came from the right. I mean, Steve Bannon leveled her the next day on his show just for being a woman and saying that, she's not smart enough to speak for the GOP because just for being a woman, the Republican Party, you're incapable, you're not allowed to be respected. So it was like, it was interesting seeing her do it because she was level. It didn't matter who.
Well,
you asked.
Who's smart enough to articulate what the GOP is doing? Nobody can figure out what the fuck they're doing. Who could articulate it? Who do you, who are we going to bring up? It's got to be.
I'm just more making the point that the misogyny, she got it from both sides. That's all I'm saying. It wasn't about who can or can. It's just because she was a woman, Steve Bannon feels that the job wasn't done.
I was responding
correctly.
to Steve Bannon. I was responding to Steve Bannon, not you. I'm saying to Steve Bannon, if you're going to make that criticism, who could articulate it? There's not a plan there that you could articulate. How are you going to have a response to Joe Biden when you guys can't tell us what your plan is at any point? Is there anything else? Let's see. That might be it. Was there anything else we need to cover? Maybe we'll end it early. I've been on since 8:45, so maybe we'll end a little early today. Is there any other stories you want to cover?
No, I think I got through the gist of everything I wanted to say.
Let me check the comments real quick, make sure I didn't miss anything. I don't think I missed anything. All right, I will talk to Felice. I'm not sure what her plans are. I plan on being live at least one time. Okay, the hearing is on, so I'll leave this up until 1 o'clock, but I'll be moving around. I'll be on at some point this weekend. Felice will decide whether or not she wants to join, but at some point either tonight or Saturday night, I will host an evening live, and it'll be more relaxed like we did before. But I'm looking forward to relaxing this weekend. Felice, thank you for this week, all the hard work, the amazing content you've put out. Guys, make sure you're following Felice. You can watch her content every day. She spends hours and hours and hours doing this, as well as clipping these for the show every single day. So you deserve a weekend, maybe at Cheesecake Factory. We'll see. All right.
Bye, Travis.
See you guys. This will still be live, but I'm going to be off camera. So let me get this over here. And let's get the Fonnie Willis going here.
It always says Fulton County District Attorney's Office. Your question was specific as to the anti-corruption unit, and I'm looking for the verbiage of anti-corruption unit, so I apologize.
No, take your time.
And see, on both pages, it starts out Fulton County District Attorney's Office, and then it just goes to initials FCDA, unless I'm overlooking where it says the anti-corruption unit, then the contract was with the FCDA. Unless you want to show me something.
I'm just asking you, and I didn't know if that would refresh your memory. Those contracts were for the anti-corruption unit, right?
Well, they were for the district. I work for the DA.
Okay.
I work for the DA.
Okay, so just in general, the DA.
Correct. I work for Fulton County District Attorney's Office as a contract person, as it says here.
And when you did the taint work, you had to report to Sonia Allen?
I did not.
You did not. Who did you report to then?
I can't remember his name. His first name was Brian.
Okay. And let's see. So I know you said you met with Miss Willis when you signed those contracts, right?
Yes, I know I met at least one time to sign these contracts, or to sign when I signed the contracts, yes.
Did you meet with her any other times?
I did not personally meet with Miss Willis any other time. When you say meet, what do you mean meet with?
Talk with her, meet with her.
I would see Miss Willis in passing if I'm walking through the office and something like that. But no, I didn't have any meetings with Miss Willis.
Okay, so the only times you met with her were when you signed those contracts.
Clarify meet with. I
sat down and had a conversation with her.
I signed these contracts, so when I signed these, I met with her. To say that I sat down and spoke with Miss Willis, are you saying in life? And you saying during this time? What are you asking me?
If it's voluminous, I can narrow down the times, but I wasn't.
Ms. Merchant, I haven't really heard a point in a while. Can we get along to something, or we're going to have to wrap it up?
So I had one more question about your text. Have you ever been in any group text with anybody other than, with me, and somebody other than Mr. Chopra and Mr. Merchant?
You're going to narrow that down. I'm sure you sent many texts.
I can look at my phone.
But with him, if there have been any other texts. And I think that the state had some things in rebuttal they mentioned, so I was just trying to clean that up before it got there.
You try the question one more time.
Yeah. Isn't it true that the only texts that you and I have ever had have been between me, you, and Mr. Chopra, or me, you, and John Merchant, correct?
Can I look at my phone?
Sure.
And what's the relevance of that, Ms. Merchant?
They've said multiple times that there's this third party that we've talked to, and I'm trying to establish there's no third party. And I don't know why it was relevant, but the state's argued it, so.
Well, if the
If Ms. Merchant doesn't know why it's relevant, then maybe it might become relevant later, but right now.
Ms. Merchant, I think you've been able to show what may be launched for this and answer the state's initial claims. And so let's get back to the core of what we were here for this hearing. Do you have anything else relevant to ask this witness?
Yes, just a few more questions. After it became known that you were placed under subpoena, did you get a call from Gabe Banks?
I did.
And was he trying to determine if you were going to be giving information in this case?
I don't know what he was trying to determine. He stated that it was an odd. I had not spoken to Gabe in a while. We are colleagues. We are friends. We are in the same fraternity, Gabe and I. And when he called, it was out of the blue. But he did call, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you relayed that to me as well, correct?
I did.
And then you also got a call from your best friend who was relaying a message to you from Mr. Wade, correct?
No, I got a call saying that he got a call, not that a message that was supposed to be relayed to me. The call was...
No, this is Bradley testifying, I believe.
I'm going to check if there's a hearsay, if the responsible call for hearsay. Thus far, it hasn't, but...
Sure. So here's the objection as to the contents of the call, Ms. Merchant.
I believe the contents of the call were to remember your privilege. I took that as a threat. I think Mr. Bradley took it as a threat, and I think he would testify to that.
And...
Hasn't testified to it. He also said there wasn't any message relayed by Mr. Wade during the party.
Well, no, he didn't say it was by any party. So, assuming he did hear something from a party, what's the hearsay exception for that, Ms. Merchant?
I believe that it was a threat, so it's a statement against interest. I'm sorry, it's a, if he took it as a threat to influence his testimony, then it's not hearsay, then it would be admissible.
All right, so...
I did not take it as a threat.
If you're saying it's to the effect on the listener, perhaps?
Yes.
I don't know who this is. Does anybody know who this is? Sorry, I've just been playing it, but I haven't been watching it. I don't actually know who this is. The camera's not on him, so I can't tell.
Understood. I'll overrule the objection. The testimony given the weight it deserves.
Can you repeat the question?
Were you told to remember your privilege?
I was not.
A witness. There may be a potential.
Yeah, this was his divorce attorney. Is it Bradley, right? I think that's what they said.
It's
the same guy from
Well,
yesterday.
if that witness hasn't been told to testify, then I don't see any sequestration issues.
I don't know who it is. I don't know his name.
Okay, and so were you told anything to that effect, Mr. Bradley?
Yeah, Bradley. There we go. Yeah.
Repeat the question one more time, but so I was not told, remember my privilege.
Something about privilege. Remembering that.
I do recall privilege being mentioned, but it wasn't remember your privilege or, a threat of any sort.
But you immediately called me after.
No, I called someone else after.
You called me quickly thereafter.
I talked to you that day, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Sit down.
Your Honor, because this is a defense witness, is it the state's first cross? How we had been doing it yesterday.
No, actually, we're doing it just this way.
Yeah, I've been.
Okay.
This is the first time he's gone, and then we go through all the defense, and then you'll have your chance.
Some foundation questions to begin with, please. Your testimony as you began representing Mr. Wade as his attorney on what date or what approximate date?
I didn't have an approximate date.
And give me an approximate date when you began acting as Mr. Wade's attorney.
I would say it was, if I'm speculating,
I really don't want you to speculate. I mean, you're the one that was the attorney and Mr. Wade was the client.
Correct.
So give us the ballpark figure of when it was that you began acting as his attorney.
Maybe 2017, 2018, I think, maybe.
And the purpose for which you were retained?
His divorce.
So, according to you, from that time period, your communications with Mr. Wade with regard to the divorce or any matters related to the divorce, your position are confidential, are privileged, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good. Now, did you ever meet with Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade prior to, and everything I'm asking you is prior to November of 2021, okay?
Okay.
Keep that in mind. That's.
Why are you yelling?
I don't think he's yelling, Mr. Bradley. He's just speaking up. All right, let's sit down. Let's go.
Okay, thank you. Prior to Mr. Wade getting his contract with Fulton County, which was November 1st of 2021, okay? Just please keep that in mind.
November 1st of 2021.
Right. Did you ever socialize with Mr. Wade and Ms. Willis prior to November 1st of 2021?
I've never socialized with Mr. Wade or Ms. Willis in any setting. If you're asking, have I ever met with them, then I would say yes. But when you say socialize, what do you mean socialize?
Have you ever gone out to eat with both of them?
Before 2021, I do not
Or
think.
November 1st of 2021.
Out to eat with both of them before. When was she sworn in? I'm sorry. When was she sworn in? There was a dinner before. When she was sworn in that I attended. Shaquille O'Neal was there, so it was like her inauguration dinner. So I'm thinking that's before 2021. So I would say yes.
Let's assume, for purposes of my question, that
yes,
that's
sir.
In early January of 2021.
That is early January 2021. So yes, it would be before November. So if it was January, yes, that dinner would have been in, I'm assuming, January.
Okay. And any other time that you socialized, went out to eat, went to anyone's home, you know what socialized is.
Exactly. So no, I did not socialize with Mr. Willis. With Miss Willis and Mr. Wade.
So prior to November 1st of 2021, did Miss Willis come to your offices? Your offices, the offices that you shared with Mr. Wade.
I think she came once or twice to our office, correct?
And the purpose for which she came?
I don't know. We had separate offices. I do recall. I do recall some type of meeting happening at our office, and I don't know what that was about. I wasn't a part of those meetings. There was a meeting. There were other people there. There were other people from I want to say DA's office there, maybe.
Okay, let's go back to the basics. Ms. Willis came to your offices, together offices, on a couple different occasions.
Correct? I recall Ms. Willis coming to my office at least twice.
And on at least one of those occasions, or you tell us, did Ms. Willis meet privately with Mr. Wade in his office that you observed or heard?
I can't recall.
You can't recall?
No.
Did she ever meet with you in your office? Ms. Willis now.
Privately in my office? No. I've never met privately in any office with her outside of signing this contract.
Did Mr. Wade, prior to November 1st of 2021, ever talk to you about socializing with Miss Willis?
I can't recall.
You can't recall?
You're asking me if he ever mentioned to me that he socialized
with Miss Willis, correct?
And I'm saying I cannot recall if he socialized with Miss Willis, if he ever mentioned to me that he socialized.
Did he ever mention to you that he ate or went out to dinner with Miss Willis? Again, time period before November 1st of 2021.
Did he, repeat your question?
Did Mr. Wade ever tell you prior to November 1st of 2021 that he had socialized, gone out to eat, visited Miss Willis in anything other than a professional setting?
I'm sure he did, maybe. I don't recall any specifics of any dinners, any specific places. It's been 3 years ago, the time frame, but I do not recall at this time whether or not he ever mentioned any dinners or socializing.
Did Mr. Wade mention to you that he visited Miss Willis at Miss Willis's then current abode, which would have been a place, not her original house, but a place she was staying in the period of 2021 before November 1 of 2021? And his question is, did Mr. Wade ever tell you that he visited Miss Willis at her house?
I don't think I can answer that.
Yeah, privilege based on communication with my client.
All right. Mr. State, if you want to try and rephrase the question, you can, but otherwise that would be sustained.
On both grounds or just on the privilege ground?
Just, I didn't hear a second ground.
It was a hearsay ground.
Oh, that would be on privilege alone.
Did you talk to Mr. Wade at all about his relationship with Miss Willis prior to November 1st of 2021?
I think he's just laying a record, Mr. Wade. It's okay. And so on those same grounds, Mr. State Allen, all subsequent grounds, apparently the relationship with Miss Willis in any way is covered by privilege according to this witness.
Well, I think the key words, respectfully, are according to this witness. So I'm trying to drill down to see if there are communications that are not within the privilege.
Sure.
I can.
So then we need to acknowledge the privilege in the form of your question, right?
You're asking me